One. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bag of Giving. We're back. There's a bag. We're going to put money in it and then send it to people to do good things. That's not actually what's happening. It's just a metaphor. Hi, I'm Mike Underwood. I'm one of the co-founders of Bag of Giving. I also do some other things, but I'll talk about that later. If you are not familiar with Bag of Giving, I'll give a very short rundown here before I hand it off to Gregory Wilson, aka Arvin Elleron, our channel host and tonight's DM. So Bag of Giving came together with two specific goals in mind. Bring together fellow creatives to have some fun and put a bit of good out into the world. On the having fun side, it's been really great to get to connect with colleagues, reconnect with colleagues, and kind of have various funs. I've like playing games that I've not gotten to play before, which is also high on my list of things to do. And so we're very grateful to everybody who has helped us have an actual thing to do. And it's been fun to get to showcase games that maybe don't have as much attention or have not gotten as much attention between new releases, indies, and other things like that. You can find out about all the different things that we do across kind of our various games at bagofgiving.org. And on the doing good side, we wanted to spotlight charities and causes that are important to us and our players. So you can check out our players page and our schedule to see who's involved and what we'll be up to. This month, we are supporting NNAF, the National Network of Abortion Funds, which is a US-based group that builds power with members to remove financial and logistical barriers to abortion access by centering people who have abortions and by organizing at the intersections of racial, economic, and reproductive justice. So a number of people are organizing for and fundraising for NNAF. What I think is really important to remember is that this is not one group that then kind of distributes money down really inefficiently. This is a system for supporting 20 plus individual abortion funds that largely focus on the Midwest and southern US states, which are areas that are kind of most directly in crisis right now after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So our mods and or me as a mod will be kind of putting commands into the chat for how you can donate. We have a variety of prizes that you may be able to win if you do donate. And basically you can get one entry for every $5 Canadian or equivalent in your own currency that you donate. You just have to go through the steps to let the Bag of Giving account know what you've donated. Please don't dox yourself when you do so. We just need to know who you donated to and how much, and that we can associate it with you. Please don't put your credit card information in there for all of our sakes. It will make everything easier. So that is that. And now I'm going to hand it over to Greg Wilson, who is going to tell us a little bit about Lone Wolf.
Hi, everybody. It is good to see everyone. It is a great relief, by the way, for the first time in I don't know how long, to be on a session like this where I'm not actually running production for it. So thank you, Mike, for stepping in and doing that. I was just like, oh, it's right. I don't have to do all of this other stuff tonight. So yay. So thank you, Mike, for doing that. Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about Lone Wolf, and I'm going to explain a lot about the world. But before I do that, I do want to introduce our players and have them talk a little bit, just briefly, about their characters. And these are players. I'm very excited about this group, actually, because we have a couple folks who are veterans and a couple folks who are fairly new, or it's been a long time since being in the gaming space, which is great. And it will allow us to get a chance to try out, all of us try out this system together. So I'm excited about that. I should also mention that for those who were expecting to see Marie Bilodeau, unfortunately, Marie could not join us tonight. But Mike Underwood has generously agreed to step in and play the character that Marie would otherwise have played. So just keep in mind that Mike is doing double duty as both production and player. So thank you, Mike, again, for stepping in for that. So I'm going to work from the top of my list down. The list right now is organized based on combat skill, and I'll explain that when I get there. That is not, I want to emphasize, any indication of the value of the character positively or negatively. This is simply talking about the combat skill that they have, because it has something to do with the order that we go in combat, if there's any combat to happen. I mean, I'm sure that these folks will avoid any potential problems and it'll just be super easy. I'm sure that'll be the case. Whether or not that's true, first I would like to welcome Derek Kunskin to the mix. Derek, it is good to see you. Welcome. And I guess if you want to talk very briefly about who you are for those who might not know you and your character that you're playing today.
Thanks, Gregory. I'm Dirk Kunsken, he, him, and I'm a space opera writer. People may have known me from my novels, The House of Styx or The Quantum Magician. Tonight I'm playing Night Fox, a combat and stealth person. I'm an excellent sniper with a bow. I do not have a noble past. In fact, I got picked up by the Kai Temple for training after having failed to pickpocket somebody. And my character doesn't have pants, and I'm going to be working hard to put this into the character, like live in the moment. And we'll find reasons for this. It may be he's an ascetic, but as a sort of ranger person who's good at being out in the woods, I can only think that, trying to go through raspberry bushes with no pants could be hard. There we go. So
it's entirely possible. I was wondering if those were maybe just sort of, flesh-colored leggings, but maybe not. I mean, I think that's quite possible that it's just no pants. I look forward to seeing how Night Fox manages things. I had not thought about the no pants part, but it is true. You mentioned that before. Always a pleasure to have Derek with us. Thank you, Derek. And next up is the character that's being played here by Jeffe Kennedy. And it's my great pleasure to welcome Jeffe to the channel for the first time. Thank you for being with us, Jeffe. And I know that that gaming has not been something you've done much of here, and I'm really grateful that you've joined us and are getting on board with this. So welcome. If you'd like to talk very briefly to folks who may not be as familiar on the channel, my viewers, and then talk a little bit about briefly your character that you're playing today.
Well, hi everyone, and I'm delighted to be here. I've had fun hanging out with Derek and Kelly and Michael at other events, so it feels like old home week here. I am the current president of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association, so I'm well acquainted with conflict. I feel like I've got that handled. I write epic fantasy romance. My most recent series are the Bonds of Magic, beginning with Dark Wizard. And I have a number of other series as well. I'm at this point at something like 54 published titles, but depending on how you slice the length and so forth. And I am playing Dawn Sparrow. I was glad Derek went first because I quickly brought up, no, Storm Sparrow, dang it. I already got it wrong. I am not a gamer. Did we mention that? But I'm game for this. So as Storm Sparrow, she is she, her, like I am she, her. And skilled with a bow and blade, skilled hunter, at home in the outdoors. I picked her in part because I am also at home in the outdoors. I've done lots of field work as a scientist. And I feel like we need to do something about Storm's hair, because just because you're an outdoorsy girl does not mean you have to have bad hair. Yeah, see what is going on there?
It's a little Legolasian.
It's a little Legolasian, yeah, but at least I have pants.
You do have pants, yeah.
Yes.
A little heavy on the Brazilian straightener there.
Yes, this is true. That maybe a good blowout would help. So I was found in a wrecked carriage. To whom among this has this not happened? And brought to a monastery, of course. And yeah, I've got latent powers that are manifesting, which is awesome. And yeah, I'm going to be doing all sorts of wilderness and ranged weapons type things, hunting, tracking, and animal kinship. I love the animal kinship part. Yeah.
Yes,
Jelly.
and these skills that everyone mentions a lot of them will get a chance to have use during the course of this adventure. So that's good that we have a good balance of those skills. Thank you, Jeffe, again. Thank you so much. And yeah, I was going to say, when you started to say Dawn Sparrow, I was like, well, the next character might have a problem because also first name Dawn. So yes, that of course is going to be Kelly Robson's character. And Kelly, it is good again. Welcome. I of course know of you as well, but have not met you in person. So again, pleasure to meet you and pleasure to have you on the channel for the first time. And same question, if you wouldn't mind just talking to the folks a little bit about just briefly about who you are, and then a little bit about Dawn Thunder that we have here.
I am Kelly Robson. I'm a Canadian science fiction fantasy horror writer. My next book, High Times in the Low Parliament, is going to be out this August.
Such a good title.
Thank you. It is a stoner comedy. It is a lesbian stoner comedy with fairies, and I highly recommend it to everyone who wants a good laugh. It recently got a rave review from Gary Wolfe in Locus, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Nice.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
He called it goofy.
All right.
among other superlatives. So yes, so my character, I am playing Dawn Thunder. She, her. Dawn is a bit of a snob. And I trace my lineage all the way back to the olden days. I harbor a secret feeling that I am an reincarnation of one of the kings of old, but I'm not that much of a fighter. I do healing and mind shield and sixth sense. I'm really good at protecting others from harm, and I also carry a potion of Spur, which I have no idea what that is. We shall see. We'll see. I'll try and unleash the potion of Spur in a very vital moment.
Yeah, you do need to call it out. It's like a called shot. Lobspur. You have to call it out when you
go.
when you
I'll
launch it into the fray.
And I'm the reason why I'm on this situation, by the way, is I'm running away from love. I'm in love. My love is unrequited. Just see.
Yeah. So
that
that
classic motivation.
Absolutely, and hopefully you will have found some peace within the Kai ranks as you do what you can to fight for good and forget the love that you have lost, the unrequited love. And I'm very happy to see how Dawn Thunder handles things today. Exactly, Carol. Good old Lompspur. Yes, yeah, exactly. Lompspur. And last but certainly not least, of course, someone who some folks might now know, whose name is Michael R. Underwood, I believe, is with us. Mike, it's good to see you as always. Thank you for all the various things I've already thanked you for. For those who don't know you, although most on my channel should at this point, could you explain to the fine folks a little bit about who you are, and then about True Song that we have right here?
Yeah, sure thing. So, I'm Mike. I write as Michael R. Underwood. He, him pronouns for me. My latest releases are, in fact, my first releases, but again, Geekomancy and Celebromancy, which are out in new editions that I've put out myself since the rights reverted to me, as a thing that happens in publishing sometimes. So that's been most of what I've been working on this year, though I'm also developing a tabletop RPG adaptation of my Genrenauts series, which has been an absolute blast. And I co-host Speculate along with Greg and Brandon O'Brien, and then help organize Bag of Giving. And yeah, True Song is she, her. True Song is basically very much a bookworm, inquisitive type who I cannot connect with in any way, shape, or form. Having been a nose in the book kid for a good chunk of my life. So True Song seems to be not so much a fighter, good detective, some tracking skills, and some kind of luck ability, which hopefully will maybe get us out of a bind.
Good stuff. I am very excited for this whole party to be together. And the last thing that I'll mention, chat, just before we get started, is if you can indulge me in a bit of shameful self-promotion. The little thing that you see above your screen, which is right there-ish, sort of, he said, is that right now is the total that we have for my Gray Shade Kickstarter, which is ending on Friday. And for those of you who missed this, on Friday we have something which Mike will be participating in, which is a mega finale. It will be a 12-hour stream during which a set of players, who will change over the course of the 12 hours because no one's crazy enough to do this for 12 hours except me, they will be part of, start with a D&D bog standard fantasy, and every $500 the Kickstarter goes up, we will switch systems. And we have something like 20 different role-playing systems ready to go. And the key to this is that when the systems are switched, the archetypes will stay as close as they possibly can. So the example that I give is if someone's playing a paladin or a fighter in D&D and we switch over to the Warren, which is a powered by the Apocalypse game about rabbits, the person playing the paladin would then be playing a bigwig style from Watership Down fighting rabbit, basically. So that's the idea to keep this across. This was hugely successful for our Kickstarter a few years ago, and we're hoping it'll be a big push for this on Friday. We had a very good day today, and we are almost just shy of 16,000, which is really great, but we still have a long way to go. So I'm going to announce this now to the players because this will help them as well. And that is to say that if we reach 16,100 of the Kickstarter today, which is only a little bit over $100, I think it's 107 or something like that, if I've done my math correctly, then I will give the players a bonus bit of information. If we get to 16.5, I will not only give them a bonus bit of information, but help from an unexpected source will arrive. So this is to the benefit of the players, and most of all, to the benefit of the Kickstarter that I really need to fund for this to work. So if you want to know more about that, you've just seen the link that Turbo Tango, Mike was kind enough to put in chat, Gray Shade KS. Please do go to this because it is something we're very proud of. We're proud of the team that we've assembled with it. Brandon O'Brien is on that team. Garlic Tofu, also known as EDE Bell, also just announced as the CanCon editor guest of honor, is one of that team, and numerous examples of people that are on this team. We're very proud of it. It is a 5e RPG. It is a set of trilogy of dark fantasy novels and an audiobook from our very own Trent Sparks. So we're very excited about it. It has resonated really well, but we just need to continue to push over these last 4 days-ish or so. So please, 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 now is the time to jump on board if you wish to help these fine players and also to help the Kickstarter. So my apologies, and I will try to, keep it on the down low with the used car salesman bit. But with that said, let us get into talking a bit about the world of Lone Wolf. And I want to very briefly explain this world, and I do mean very briefly, and then I'm going to ask each of the players a question about their character, which is related to this background I'm about to give, and this will be helpful in sort of explaining things as we go forward. All 4 of our characters today are Kai Lords. There has been some disagreement as to whether everyone is a Kai Lord or whether there are Kai Lords and Kai Ladies. For the purposes of today, we'll be referring to everyone as a Kai Lord, which means that although they are initiates, although they have entered the monastery not that long ago, they have still had extensive training, and thus they wear the green cloaks, occasionally pants, depending on the character, but they wear the green cloaks that is part of being a Kai Lord. The order of the Kai monks is an old and very revered order within the world of Magnamund, within which Lone Wolf takes place. And it actually sprung out of the ashes of war. There had been civil war between many nations in Magnamund, and Sommerlund in particular, which is the nation where the Kai monastery is located, had been subject to depredations and attacks and was torn apart by conflict. And so eventually there was a person who actually was a baron who had been part of this conflict, through a series of events decided that it was time for something different and founded this monastery, which was based upon essentially 4 vows, which I'm going to explain in just a minute, 4 principles, in the worship of the god Kai, who is the sun god and is a god of truth, but also of protection of the poor and of the needy. It's important to recognize that one of the things that the Kai Lords did, I should say the Baron did in founding the Kai Monastery, was to establish established that these were not proselytizing monks. They do not go forth and, in fact, are forbidden from going forth and recruiting actively to the cause. People come to the Kai monastery because they want to, or because they've been brought there after being, devastatingly poor and hungry, and they wanted a different way of life, or they've come there because they wanted to prove themselves and make things better for them and the people around them. These are not, again, proselytizing, acolytes that go forth and attempt to win people over. The only way that a Kai Lord wins someone over is through the deeds that they engage upon and that they're involved in. That said, there are very strict rules to being within the monastery, some of which people can or cannot resist. And there are 4 vows which are taken by initiates into the Kai order. The breaking of any of these vows is considered so serious that it has only been done on a few occasions throughout the recorded history of the Kai, and those people are known as oath breakers. They are not only kicked out, but they also ultimately become figures that are sort of the boogeyman for the Kai initiates, right? You don't want to be like this person who broke this vow by being greedy and taking reward for what they had done, or by doing something like not stopping to help someone who was in need, or by not standing up to the corrupt and the powerful, or by, even worse, murdering someone so that you could become corrupt and powerful yourself. Any of these breaking of the vows is unthinkable, and it is considered something which to do is to make you, as I say, a pariah and sort of a legendarily infamous figure for the Kai. So the 4 vows, and this is where I'm going to come back to the players, are as follows. The vows are, first of all, these are always sworn during a great ceremony, and all 4 of these characters have passed through these vows. First is the Vow of Fire. What the Kai Lords learned during their years spent in training at the monastery is that there's little need for material wealth, and that personal development is of far greater importance. And so a Kai Lord is only permitted to own material possessions that are deemed worthy and acceptable. Other possessions that one finds are discouraged, because the belief is that it is an unwanted distraction from the truth of a Kai Lord's pursuit of wisdom and of inner strength. So the trial of fire is a trial of sacrifice. A Kai initiate is requested to give up a sentimentally valuable keepsake from their childhood years. And the sacrifice rarely involves an item of monetary value, but an item of sentimental value. The question is whether you can give that up, and whether you can yourself commit to this new and more difficult, but in the eyes of the Kai monks anyway, a better path. That's the Vow of Fire. The Vow of Light says that the Kai must hold themselves to a higher standard than ordinary folk, so that a Kai Lord who knowingly and willingly commits a deliberately harmful act will be stripped of rank, may lose their ability to call upon Kai disciplines, and must atone for their transgressions. And in certain cases, these transgressions are so severe that they are considered oathbreakers and cast forward, as I've already said. A typical trial means that each of the presiding Kai masters, this felt to me very much like my dissertation committee, by the way, side note, so this is a little bit like this, but these 3 Kai masters pose a moral dilemma to the initiate, and together they judge that person accordingly by the answer given by that person to them. So this moral dilemma, and this sounds like, okay, well then I can just take my time, but a strict time limit of 1 minute is imposed, and you are allowed to give only your first answer. So you can't be like, well, wait, actually I meant this. And the reason for this is that the monks are expected to have prepared, the initiates are expected to have prepared for this moment over years leading up to this moment, so that in a moment of moral crisis, the Kai initiate can make the right decision without having to wonder, wait, do I save the poor person or take the easier path and not do that? And so that is the idea behind this trial. Last 2, the Vow of Solaris. Kai Lords are expected to fight evil wherever and whenever it manifests itself, up to and including the sacrifice of the Kai Lord's life, if necessary. This trial is usually done by giving a special crystal which glows in accordance with the heart of one's faith and commitment to the good. And what happens is the initiate brings it into the deep shadows of the Kai monastery's great hall. If the light is still visible to the Kai masters when the initiate has reached the other end, then the trial is passed. If it is not, then it indicates that their heart is not fully committed to this path, and then they are asked to leave. You'll be happy to know that all of you already passed this trial, but I'm just letting you know that it was there. And the last trial is the Vow of Spirit, which is the Kai Lords live a monastic lifestyle, so they are expected to refrain from the vice of gluttony, to avoid overindulgent pleasures, and to eschew immoral behavior. Now, Kai Lords who engage in clandestine operations are sometimes tested and are allowed to slightly bend this rule. The question is how much they bend it, and the way the trial works in this case is an indirect one. For 3 days before the initiate's scheduled appearance to make their vows, the Kai Masters secretly engineer 3 sets of circumstances in which the initiate could indulge in dishonest behavior, and the scenarios measure what the person will do and not do under certain circumstances. Interestingly, it's not just the action itself. It's also what the initiate does and says to explain why they took that action that matters. And so Kai Lords are part warrior, part diplomat. And part of what their job is to be able to speak their truth, not simply fight their truth. And so with those 4 vows in mind, I would like to come to each of the folks, and I will begin, I think in this case, I'm going to begin with Mike to give everyone a little bit of extra time. I'm going to come to Mike first, and I'm going to ask Mike, True Song, I should say. True Song, what question were you asked in your moral test, and how did you answer?
I think the question was something about that a servant of like the Dark Lord, whatever the kind of Dark Lord equivalent is,
Literally Dark Lords.
yeah, has is preparing for a terrible ritual, and you are presented with 2 options. Basically, here's a book penned by that Dark Lord themselves, and reading it will kind of test and corrupt your mind, or you can basically search through a whole room's worth of library, and the answer is there, but you are going to have to either sacrifice deeply of your own physical health and or get really lucky. And so then the test here is, will you take the easy route that involves accessing knowledge that you are not supposed to, because True Song is very much a bookish type. And so I think that's the test that was presented to her.
How did you answer?
She said, after deliberating, the risk of corruption and falling into the goals of the Dark Lord is too high, and therefore I must rely on my training and the blessings of good to point me in the right direction, so that I may be able to advise the local leaders so that they may stop the ritual.
Good stuff. Okay. I'm taking notes as we speak. I will come now to Storm Sparrow. And what I would like to ask Storm Sparrow is, during the trial, the Vow of Fire, the Trial of Fire, what was the sentimental keepsake you were asked to give up?
Well, as we know, I was found in the wreckage of a carriage, and I had very few, if any, possessions from my early childhood. In fact, the only thing that I had was a silver necklace that was found around my neck with a strange symbol upon it. And it's probably the only clue to who my parents were or how I was in that carriage in the first place. But my commitment to the Kai Monastery was strong, and so I willingly sacrificed that.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, let me come then to Dawn Thunder. And I want to ask you, during the trial, the lead up to the trial, Dawn Thunder, there were 3 examples of behavior that you could have behaved in, that you could have chosen to do based upon these things that were set up for you ahead of time. I'm wondering if you could tell us one of those moments or one of those acts of behavior that you had the opportunity to do, which you ultimately, and I want to know, did you or did you not do this? And did you explain it in a certain way that allowed you to pass the trial to the Kai Masters?
Hmm. The trial that I was asked was to was whether or not I would cast my spell of Sixth Sense on my one true love to find out whether or not they were of danger to me and were evil. I decided to cast the spell, and I did discover that my one true love, for one reason or another, is not what I thought she was, and that was deeply and horribly wounding to me. I haven't gotten over it.
Did you explain that to the Kai Masters, or how did you explain it, I guess, to the Kai Masters?
Because I explained it to them that a Kai Lord's duty is higher even than of love.
Ah, okay. Good stuff. All right. So that leaves, last of all, Night Fox. And for Night Fox, I will loop back around. I'm not going to ask you how bright the crystal was in the fourth trial. I think that'd be a little silly. So I'm going to loop back around and ask you about the moral question that was put to you during the Vow of Light. And what was the moral sort of question that was put to you, and how did you answer it?
My studies on the Kai way were not always easy, and I had various detours that required correction. I had a difficult time sometimes understanding, how to fight evil without committing transgressions myself. And so one of the questions was, how would I deal with a person who appears to be good to everybody else, and only I know that they're doing something evil, and it's difficult for me to explain to others. And I explained that I would move away from my weakness, which is to strike, and I would try to gather more information and think about it and talk to others, and barely passed the test.
Barely passed the test. Okay. Well, however, that said, you all did pass it, at least well enough to be able to explain things to the Kai Masters. Good. That's information which each of you independently know. The trials are not exactly secret to the initiates. They know that there are some of these things that await. But what you choose to share with your companions in detail is up to you, and we'll talk, more about that as we go through. But that's good. That gives me a little bit of a moral grounding of where all of you are morally. All right. So then, as we get things underway here, here is what we need to know. So, we are here within the Kai Monastery. In fact, it is not yet dawn when you arrive at the courtyard of the Kai Monastery. Eagerly you await the appearance of Kai Femskird Riverblade. She has summoned you here for an unknown purpose. Shivering in the chill morning air of this early autumnal day, you can hear the calls of larks and collie sparrows beyond the surrounding walls of the Kai Monastery, and you watch with trepidation as Riverblade makes her way down the grand stairs from the door to the quarters of the Skirden. These are the leaders of your order. She says, regarding you fondly with her bright blue eyes, "Greetings, initiates. I see that you've come prepared for a journey as I've requested. This is good. We have received a request for help from the merchants at the Alima Mitre. One of their caravans has not returned as scheduled, and they have asked us to investigate what has happened to it." Riverblade pauses and looks at you intently, and as you think through this, you excitedly realize that this means for all of you, fledgling Kai, that you have satisfied your mentors that you have attained a sufficiently high enough level of competence in your Kai disciplines that they deem you worthy to carry out a mission in the service of the Order of the Kai. And this is a proper mission. It is a mission that you will do together as a team. And as you all sort of look at each other, realizing the significance of this moment, Riverblade, who is very popular with the initiates because she's one of the younger masters and always very warm. She is not yet world-weary and beaten down by the world around her and so forth. And so there is warmth and humor in her laugh, not mockery. And she says, yes, that is right, my young Kai warriors. This is the moment you have awaited. The time is right for you to take your first flight together away from our nest. But do you have any questions for me before I set you to your task? And she folds her hands and waits, sort of looking at you kindly. Any of you can respond as you like, if you wish.
What's our quest? What's our goal?
You must find, first of all, what has happened to the merchants at the Alima Mitre. Their caravan is missing. And so they have asked us to find that caravan. But you must gather information from them to learn more, I think. And by the way, on your map, just as a quick note, what you see in Roll20, this right here, so here's the Kai Monastery. I will tag it over here. Sorry, right there. You'll be able to see that ping. And the Alima Mitre, which is basically kind of a gathering area for merchants, is down here. So not too far.
Well, time is of the essence. I think we should move swiftly.
If that is what you all wish.
I agree. I'm eager to go.
Greg, out of character, would we know much of like the political economic context for kind of this surrounding community, or is this something that we would want to ask in character?
You would know some of the political situation. The merchants are basically responsible for managing a lot of the trade routes that go from some of the major cities. Holmgard, which is the capital of Summerland, has lots of merchants going back and forth in terms of trade, and trade is important to the nation and provides some sense of stability, and that's good from a Kai Lord's point of view. But in terms of direct kind of political stuff, you don't necessarily have a lot of information about that, and you can try to ask if you will, although it should be said that Riverblade, like many of the Kai Lords, deliberately eschew, political knowledge because they kind of try to avoid that to the extent they can. But they certainly are aware that Sommerland and some of the nations around them have not always been on the friendliest of terms, and so you're certainly aware of that information. But you can try to ask about more if you wish.
Well, I'm wondering why you picked the four of us.
It is a good question. I think because there is something about the four of you that feels as if you will mesh together. Some of you, for example, are more convinced that the strength of arms will serve you, and others believe more that knowledge and wisdom is what must be best. And, truth to tell, you will eventually learn you must have all of these things. Indeed, you cannot simply survive based upon your warlike disciplines. There's a moment, Night Fox, where you think perhaps her eyes flicker over to you for just a moment, but maybe you're just imagining it. You're thinking about having barely passed the test before, about not striking. But there's just a moment.
I'm not imagining it.
It totally happened. Yeah.
She was totally doing that.
She totally was doing that, yeah.
It's only because you're not wearing pants.
Yeah.
You will learn you need pants. No, she doesn't say that.
No, I'm like, Cheryl, why did you
No, but so she says, and so it is our belief that you will learn from each other and you will have a chance to test your skills. We do not suspect that this will be an extremely difficult task for you, but it will be worthy of Kai initiates who wish to rise in the order and to raise themselves to greater heights of fighting against the evil and for the good.
That's all I need to hear.
And so she kind of regards all of you to see if that is in fact the case with everyone. And if that is the case, then she says, then it is time for you to set about your mission, for I have other things that demand my attention as well. I'm sure you're all aware that the success of this mission is important to those concerned, however trivial it might seem to some of you. Remember, from small acorns grow strong, some-lending oaks. And she pauses a moment and looks up at the crisp and brightening autumnal sky. And there's a moment where a wistful smile crosses her face, and there is both memory and nostalgia, and perhaps a hint of sadness caught within that smile. And then she looks back down on you and says, "Now, be on your way, and I will speak to you all upon your return." And she bows low and says in the traditional way, "For Sommerland and the Kai." And she kind of looks up.
Summerland and the Kai.
For Summerland and the Kai.
For Summerland and the Kai.
Stares at you.
Customary response.
Okay. I was waiting to see if you're going to be like, this is the moment where I break free. Okay. So, with these words, the doors of the monastery open, and you see the land beyond, and the four of you may now, if you wish, depart. I should say, just before we move out, to make sure that we know a little bit about your equipment. Now, we'll talk about equipment and stuff like that as we get there. This will introduce things very, over time. But I should say that the way things work in this game is that you have a certain starting combat skill, but that skill is increased through things that happen to you, either magical boons or foods or various potions or things like that that you consume, or the weaponry and armor that you have. So, for example, True Song, I beg your pardon, has a combat skill of 12, but because they have a shield, it means that True Song gets +2 to her combat skill. So instead, you have a 14 True Song. Similarly, your endurance, which are basically your health points, you start with 25, but you also wear a helmet, and so that means you have 27 endurance because you get 2 points for the helmet. So basically, the defensive things are not a separate stat; they are just added into the health that you have, and on the offensive side, your weaponry is added into your overall combat skill. That also works the other way. If you are poisoned, you can lose combat skill. If you find a cursed weapon, that happens. If you heavily violate your oaths, and I don't want people to panic about this. I don't mean that you say a naughty word, okay? I'm talking about like something very serious where, an innocent child is like, "Please help me," and you're like, "Shut up, you brat, we've got a mission." Like, that's bad. And those sorts of things could affect your ability to use your skills. But there is wide latitude given those overall guardrails to be able to do your work. But if there is some kind of penalty, either through poison or some other reason, that will also be deducted, and I'll tell you that when we get there. So there's that. Otherwise, you do not have a lot of equipment because you're not supposed to have a lot of equipment. Most of you will have a meal. When you're supposed to eat, you need to do so or lose points, and so you have a meal to begin with. A potion of Lompspur is a potion of healing. We'll talk about that when we get there, if it is needed. And then most of you will have some form of either armor or weapons. Sometimes you have a lot of these things. For example, Dawn Thunder has a warhammer and a dagger, and is able to use those weapons. Their particular skill is with the warhammer, but if Dawn Thunder, you were to lose that warhammer, for example, you pull out your dagger and keep on fighting, even if it's not quite as effective. Storm Sparrow has both a quarterstaff and a bow, and I will tell you, Storm Sparrow, that in combat you can often attack from a distance, at least to begin with. But enemies in this game are smart, relatively speaking, and will try to close with you so that you won't be able to just stand back and just fire from a distance. Usually they will try to close distance with you so that you'll have to be involved in melee. Still, that's a benefit to you because if you've only got one enemy and the rest of your parties engage them, you could just keep firing away from a distance at them. And even if you can't do that, you almost always can get off a shot at the character that the enemy's charging before you have to engage in melee combat. So that's beneficial there. And then lastly, Night Fox. Night Fox has also got a bow and a broadsword, and also has things like a coil of rope, which can be of certain value. You will also notice, by the way, Night Fox, that you have 0 meals, but you don't need meals because you have the ability to hunt. You are a gifted hunter. And so that means when someone asks when I'm like, okay, you need to eat a meal, you could be like, fortunately, I've recently slain this fox or whatever, or I have, gotten plenty of nuts and berries to sustain me. So you, for yourself, will not need to worry about having meals. Your hunting only applies to you, though. Unfortunately, you're usually not able to get enough for everybody because it would take too long, basically. The last thing I want to mention, and we'll get into this later on, is to note that all of you have a certain number of disciplines. These are things which are basically traits that usually not all of you necessarily will possess. Many of you will have weapon skill with a particular weapon, but only a couple of you will have something like tracking, which lets you follow and read tracks, or camouflage, which lets you hide and disguise yourselves. And there may be moments where you'll think, can I use X skill to do Y thing? I encourage you to do that and be like, yeah, I'd like to know if I can I use camouflage to hide from enemies I hear coming down the road or something? And I will let you know whether that's possible or not. I will try to provide as wide a latitude as I can, and we will explain those things. Obviously, if something doesn't make sense, then it's not going to work. So if you're like, I would like to, I have been seen by bandits charging at me. I'm going to camouflage myself by hiding behind this very thin tree. That's not going to work. They already saw you. But the idea is that under most circumstances, some of your skills should be useful to you as we go through the adventure. So with that said, before we go on and I start asking the party what it wants to do, does the party have any questions about stuff?
We need to pay attention to range when using things.
No,
like
this
bow?
is theater of the mind stuff. I'll be able to let you know if there's something where, that might ultimately matter. But no, generally you'll be able to get a good sense based on how the description works. Hopefully, if I do my job right.
I'm ready for theater of the mind.
And are you
So do we
keeping
have-
track of hit points and things?
That'll be that's the endurance right there. That'll be on your sheets. I also am able to keep track of your endurance separately, but I don't have a tracker on Roll20 because it does not have a lone wolf, which it should. It should totally have a lone wolf setup, but it does not have that. So I will expect folks to keep track of their own endurance as we go through. Okay. Yes. Did I hear one other question?
Do we have horses? Are we on foot or what?
You are going to be on foot. And the reason for that is because they do have horses for certain longer trips, but this is not considered a particularly long trip. And the thought is that you will need to be able to deal with possibly you might want to come in a more secretive, stealthy mode potentially. And so that's why they thought not to give you the horses in this case. Also, you're initiates and maybe they don't trust you. I don't know. I'm making that part up. I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure that's not at all true.
That's what I think it is.
Totally you do, because you saw her. And okay. So as you walk under the granite archway of your monastery home, you see the trail stretching out before you. It winds its way into the depths of the Fryland forest, and the sounds of your footfalls change as you cross a wooden bridge and step onto the packed stone and dirt of the track beyond. Looking over your shoulder, you take one final glimpse at the Kai Monastery, which has been your home and sanctuary for many years. The mid-autumnal sun arises and bathes the forest with its welcoming light. With high hopes and warm hearts, you pass below the boughs of the trees and venture deeper into the forest. Before long, you are walking with confidence through the timberland on a southeasterly tack along a winding trail that will see you arrive at the Alima Mitre just before dusk. Just so long as you set and maintain a brisk pace, that is. The air is crisp and the leaves of the many trees are turning golden brown, and when you look up into their boughs, you can see cally sparrows and larks flitting between them, and an occasional gray squirrel scurrying about its business. And this is a good moment, by the way, for the four of you, who certainly know of each other and may even have done some training together. This might be a good moment to, if you wish to, ask questions of each other or talk to each other briefly as a group. So I will give you that opportunity to do so.
How much combat skill does everyone have?
I think when she said she thinks that we rely on that too much, she might have been talking about me.
Oh, is that right? You like to swing it around a bit, do you?
It's not that I like to, it's that I don't know. I can't think of what else to do.
Just the things.
I have
you
a
guys-
rating of 18, but who knows what these quantitative measures mean.
All right, Storm Sparrow. I need
Yeah.
to throw an apple in the air. See if you can hit it.
I've only got 12 arrows. I mean, do we want to waste one of my 12 arrows doing that?
Is this a test, do you think?
It could be.
Not willing to.
Night Fox, you notice that one of the squirrels seems to be looking at you very intently in a suspicious way.
Okay, I stand up straighter. I say, come on, we've got to keep going.
Okay,
We can
Trot, trot.
talk and walk.
that's true.
Also, that squirrel was freaking me out.
I feel like that's a legit reaction.
Well, when you look up, the squirrel's just running along the branch, just normally.
The cook told me that the Kai masters are able to control animals.
Yeah.
Like, did the cook not tell you that?
Control. You can't control animals.
I mean, I have a kinship with animals, and I'm not going to control them to throw them in your cooking pot.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we could be observed right now, and that this is a test.
Well, I take my vow of causing no harm very seriously, and I believe that extends to more than just human beings.
Oh, really? You wouldn't eat a squirrel?
Not unless it was a life or death situation.
Okay. All right. Well, how about an apple? Would you eat an apple?
Yes.
All right, you have to get it then. Throw it in the air.
I'm not wasting my frickin' arrows on your tests.
Go run after the apple.
So
She's not going to be baited.
I think all of the others would know that True Song is no big warrior, and I imagine that whenever there's like melee training, True Song is just like a small, like a little person, largely hiding behind a circular shield, but is very good at like reading the battlefield and like noticing things.
Right. True Song, are you even here? Are you in camouflage right now?
Back here.
Yeah, okay, all right. Stay close. Trot, trot, trot down the path.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
What do you suppose she meant by learning from each other? Like, what kind of weaknesses does she think each of us has that she paired us with everybody else?
No, I think they meant that you should all listen to me and that you'll learn from me.
I'm pretty sure that is not what she meant.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dawn Thunder. Did I miss your elevation to Kai Master?
Well, not yet, but I think I'm the most accomplished in our group.
Dawn has always thought this from the very beginning, and I can say it's not true.
Oh, I know I'm not there.
You're better than you think. You really are. You just need more confidence.
Well, let's move along to Alma Mater. Maybe we'll find you some pants.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't understand what your focus on the pants is. Breeches and tights are very common wear in climes when the winter is not so bad. Do you just all come from the north?
Yeah, it must be a Canadian versus an American. Oh, no.
How long will it take us to walk to Alma Mater?
Trot to Alma Mater.
That's right. And it's closing in, by the way, around midday as you're having this conversation between each other. And as you travel along the Alima Trail, you suddenly hear pained cries coming from the trees at the side of the track to the left-hand side. The moans and mewling are pitiful, and they seem to come from someone or something that is in a great deal of pain and distress. What could be the cause of this kind of anguish?
How far away is this sound?
It seems to be not incredibly far, but a couple 100 feet probably off the path. You certainly can't see it. It's through the trees.
Is that close enough for Sixth Sense?
It is not necessarily close enough for Sixth Sense. Although, actually, wait. Let me go back on that. So I will say this for the folks who have Sixth Sense, which is actually, who has Sixth Sense? Is it?
I do. Dawn.
Okay.
Dawn Thunder does, and so does True Song.
that's what. Yeah, let's double check and make sure. So, for Dawn Thunder and True Song, you do not have your sixth sense gives you the sense that you are the sixth sense gives you the sense that you are not you're not suspicious of these sounds. Like this does not sound like a trap to you, but it does very much sound like something or someone in distress.
All right, full speed ahead on my part. I'm running towards danger.
Well, I'm wondering, can I read the tracks and see what this might be?
I think you could very well do that. In fact, when you bend down to look, you can actually see there is a small animal trail that is branching off the main path to the left side. And to find the details of it, it's not an easy trail. We're going to do our first test of the day. So the way that a test works is very simple. Typically, what you would do is, I think I have the box for this. If we were playing around a table, I would have you take one of several tokens and flip it to see where it landed inside this box. But we are not sitting around a table, and flipping that token is going to be awfully difficult unless I drive up into Canada and all the various places where all of you can be found. So I think that's not going to work. So instead what we will do is we will roll a 10-sided die. And what you're looking for here is going to be a target value of 6. So what that means is we are going to take, I believe it was Storm Sparrow who was doing the tracking. Yes, I believe.
Yes.
So Storm Sparrow, what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you look to the left-hand side of your roll 20, you'll see there is there's a little die icon all the way to the left. There's like a little mini sidebar, and there's a die icon. And if you click on that, you'll see something pop up, and you'll see a thing that says Basic Rolls, and one of those is a D10. What I'm going to ask you to do is to click on that. You are looking to get 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, which would be 0 on the die. If you do that, then you succeed in finding this trail. If not, then you lose it.
Okay.
That is a 7. So you do, in fact, discover it. And so, yes, you find this trail. And you're able to follow it if you wish to, Storm Sparrow.
But I'm still not good enough to tell what the tracks are?
You will be able to tell now as you go through. You think you'll be able to, like, now that you've found it, the farther you go, the more you'll be able to determine of it, you think.
But I don't know right now what
Not
it is.
immediately. It is definitely not a tiny animal, but it's not enormous either. I know that's not helpful, but just right off the trail, it's just medium sized from what you can tell.
So I've noticed belatedly that my wild bond trait provides an animal companion for me.
Yes, that's true.
I'm wondering, can I send my animal companion to investigate so that we don't have to leave the main path?
You could definitely do that if you wish, although they probably would only have limited stuff that they could provide information to you about. Like if something is actually hurt, they could, maybe go and come back and be like, hey, something is hurt, but they wouldn't be able to necessarily assist you with it. I should say, by the way, that your wild bond, actually, Storm Sparrow, you have not found your animal companion yet.
All right.
Maybe, though, but maybe this is a good opportunity to find such a thing.
I have some stealth. I could try to sneak up on the thing without making any noise, and that way know what, and then report back.
Well, what does everyone else think? Is this worth investigating?
It's just an animal in distress. Let's run to its aid.
This may be a time when we cannot afford too much caution.
I'm willing to learn from throwing caution to the wind.
Okay. So
if
you're
Dawn
going to
Thunder says to run, maybe this is what the master meant, that I should learn from others.
Okay. So it sounds like you're in agreement that you're going to make your way fairly quickly. Storm Sparrow, as you make your way along that trail, the thick foliage brushing against your cloak and thighs, you spot a snare that is lying at the side of the path, which is partially covered by twigs and leaves. And nearby, you easily spot a field dressing which has been abandoned by the side of the trail. It's pretty clear to you that the poaching must have taken place very recently, and the cries of distress are coming from somewhere close by. So it shouldn't take you long to find the source, but there has definitely been poaching activity here.
So we should all be careful of snares and traps.
As you continue, it's only a short time after discovering those signs that you happen upon a female fallow deer lying on the leaf-strewn forest floor, and one of her hind legs is ensnared in the vice-tight grip of a poacher's trap. Looks very ugly as it is attached around her leg. She looks up at you with anxious eyes, her chest rising and falling quickly as she struggles to control her breathing and cope with her pain. You see no sign of the poacher, though, or of any human adversary here, just the deer lying in the trap.
Do we get the sense that if we got the deer untied from this, the deer would be okay?
If you're going to want to know that, you're going to have to do a little bit of work here. But I think the question is going to be if you are going to, like, what you're going to do will help determine that. At the moment, you're not sure because you're just looking at it from a distance, basically. So you would need
Well,
to.
can I use
get
my
closer.
animal kinship to discover how the deer is?
You can absolutely do that, if you wish to.
I wish to.
Okay. So how do you do that? As you come over to the side of the animal, what does it look like as you bend down to sort of comfort this deer?
I don't know. I come over and I see that the deer is clearly in distress.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure how my powers work, except that I perhaps lay my hands on her to discover how this came about and what her energy and health levels are.
Okay. I am going to ask you to do a test then, and let me remind chat, by the way, that as I mentioned, I would give the players some assistance. So if the Gray Shade Kickstarter happens to reach 17.1, you'll be able to, 16.1, you'll be able to give these people a bonus to tests like this. But at the moment, they are on their own. So I'm going to ask you to make another one of these tests. Again, the number that you're looking for is 6 or more. So again, if you could do that same 10-sided die roll.
Okay.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is what we're looking for. And chat, just in case you're curious, other characters would not be able to do this. So this is something unique. The fact that she's getting a test is testament to Storm Sparrow's knowledge here.
So is Storm Sparrow rolling the dice herself?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So you hold on a second. My daughter's coming. Yes.
Oh, I rolled a die too.
Oops.
Oh,
Sorry, that was a test. I was just testing if I
Wasn't it?
understood. But you rolled an 8, right, Jeffe?
I rolled an 8.
Okay. I rolled a 6, which is about par, I think, for how I feel compared to you guys.
You'll feel
You know,
better.
if you just got a pair of pants, I think it would really up your
For
confidence.
sure.
I think my
Sure,
legs
helps.
got a little scratched walking through this forest.
Okay, this is actually worth everyone knowing. So what my daughter came to report is that she just saw 2 deer running across. Well, walking, I guess. The rabbit was running, right?
See, it's a good omen.
2 deer just like came out like they were looking around as if they were looking for the rabbit.
Well, because now they know what's going on because of what's happening in the game. So, like, obviously.
And then the 2 deers like just sort of are looking, like they look at me and I'm like, what? And then they just sort of run across the street and run across our front lawn. I ran downstairs to see where they went. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. Well, there you go.
That's great.
I didn't mean to interrupt. It was just so
No, it's fine.
annoying.
Literally, what's happening right now is they are healing an injured deer in the game. That's why that's so wild. That's really funny. Okay. Bye, my love. So, anyway, back to the fantastical deer, not the real one. That's pretty wild, though. Actually, I mean, wow. Okay. Anyway, so Storm Sparrow, as you put your hand on it, on the deer, there is a moment where you receive a vision. And the vision that you receive, as if you were looking through the eyes of this deer, is the deer's young fawn, which is lying and shivering somewhere, wholly reliant on its mother for nourishment and protection. And you know that if you do not free this deer, that fawn will not be able to survive, but also that the mother's full heart and dedication and will is designed to free herself from this trap so she can go and help it. And as you're doing this, you notice the deer is becoming calmer and calmer. The rest of you don't have the vision. You just see the deer becoming calmer as this is going on. And then you come out of it, Storm Sparrow.
And I'm going to tell everyone we must free this deer. so that she can return to her fawn.
But what about our mission?
It will
It's not going to take that
Our
long.
mission.
work of moments. If someone can keep the deer calm, I think I can release the trigger on this trap. It's not too complicated, and Trusong pulls out her toolkit because I have the tinkering skill.
Very nice. You also note, by the way, one thing I should have mentioned as well, Storm Sparrow, is it does look like that back leg, though, is hurt, having been caught in that trap.
Well, I noticed that I have 2 potions of Lomspur in my backpack. So I would like to use one to heal the deer.
I think that's reasonable if you can convince the deer to stay still while you do it, is the only issue. But maybe.
Well, Trusong is a very skilled healer. There's no reason to use one of your potions.
Oh, well, thank you, Trusong. I didn't think you'd understand.
Nope. Well, I'm Storm Sparrow.
Sorry.
I'm not Storm.
Yes.
What the hell am I? I'm Dawn Thunder. But
Whoever the hell you are.
I'm volunteering Trusong.
Like,
Although I can heal too, well, but I think my healing should be, it's better if I save it for human.
it will be easier to dress the wound once the doe is free of the trap.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it's within my abilities to keep the deer calm.
All right, so then if you're going to do that while Trusong is releasing the deer, you're able to do that Trusong with difficulty. In fact, one of the things that might frustrate you is this is really a terribly designed trap. There is no sense of it being something that would be used. It seems as ugly as the person who designed it for use, and the cruelty of it. It's one thing to hunt for food. It's another thing to hunt with this thing which seems to almost be intentionally trying to create extra pain on the part of the animal. And so you're aware of that as you disable this thing without too much difficulty. And you realize, Storm Sparrow, it's probably a good thing you calmed this deer because it probably would have leaped up and ran, but instead it just sort of lies there still looking much calmer, but you can see still in some pain and distress.
While this is going on, I'm quite alarmed that we might be sidetracked from this mission that the master gave us.
Yeah.
And since Storm Sparrow just told us what the delay might be, and I kind of want to make sure that we're moving, can I have a tracking skill? Can I see where the deer came from that maybe could lead me back to this deerling that is missing?
To the actual fawn. You could possibly do that. You'll need to go basically back the other way because it's clear that the deer was going from the path and then find it on the other side. Now, you don't know how far away the fawn is, but you'd have to go in the other direction following that track. You can do so if you wish, but it's definitely not going further into the forest. It's back towards the main path.
Okay. I take a look that way just to make sure that we're absolutely listening to what the master said.
Okay. You're able to follow this, I think, because you do have tracking, right? As a skill. So you're able to follow this back to the main path. And then on the other side, you go a little bit of a distance and then you find what looks like it might have been a hastily knocked down camp, like a camp of where perhaps the poachers themselves might have been. There are the remnants of a fire that have been hurriedly stamped out. The grass is trampled here, and you see a couple of pieces of what has obviously been like whittled wood, like stakes almost, that are just lying on the ground. And it is such a mess that the tracks are completely disappearing here. You wonder if the deer maybe confused wandered through the camp or something, and then the poachers pursued it, or what happened. You're not sure, but the track is lost on the other side of the trail, so you're not sure where. I mean, you could try to pick it up, but that's going to take a lot of time, presumably, to get through this.
Okay, I return to my new friends.
In the meantime, Night Song, have you been? True Song, not Night Song. In the meantime, True Song, have you been in the process of what have you been doing with the deer?
Yeah, trying to if other people are able to keep the deer calm, like wash off the wound with some water,
right,
and then pack some herbs into a bit of cloth to kind of wrap the injured leg, with the hope that this will kind of do enough healing and then fall off so that like this deer can just go on having a life without like needing a ranger or something to do a follow-up or a follow-up.
Yep. So you do that, and the doe, after you've done this, rises unsteadily and tests her healed hind leg. She kind of sniffs at it, and she puts her weight on it, and then she raises her head, and you are positive that she nods twice before moving away into the surrounding undergrowth. And as she goes, Storm Sparrow, you feel this satisfying calmness wash over you, and you are almost certain that you hear somewhere, although this is surely impossible, a "thank you" whispered in your ear as the deer vanishes into the undergrowth.
That's so lovely. I feel sure she will find her fawn. She will know how.
Well done, friends. Let's move on back up the trail.
Totally agree.
Night Fox, did you find anything else?
I was just thinking maybe the test was, is this my hunting skill? Like, was this to be my supper that I was to provide for you guys too?
No.
Like, just,
I mean, I've eaten.
oh, do you
No,
mean?
we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Yep, let's move along.
We were packed with
Not
meats.
enough meat on that dough for the 4 of us anyway, so.
Yeah. There, I saw a little camp that looks like it was broken up pretty quickly.
All right, so perhaps the robbers that waylaid the merchants, perhaps?
I'm not sure.
We should keep an eye out, though.
Yes, keep an eye out.
Does somebody have skill in that? Do we need?
Yes, we have. I have extreme, much skill with 6 sense.
Much skill. All right.
And I believe that True Song does as well.
Yeah, I've got Investigate as a skill, but I'm guessing that comes more into play once we get closer to whenever they were, wherever the caravan was attacked.
Well, as much as is practical, I will reach out with my 6 sense to psychically sense for danger and evil as we move along.
Be good to have that forewarning.
Yeah, 6 Sense may give you that benefit, for sure. Well, you folks make your way through the trees, and after a short while, you notice that the floor of the forest is beginning a gradual descent. And through the trees ahead, you catch a few tantalizing glimpses of the river Unuram. This major watercourse is one of the 3 great rivers of Sommerland, the other 2 being the Tor and the Elidil, and it's almost a mile across at the point where you are now. It is a very, very large river. The Unurim tumbles down from the central Durncrag Mountains, and it joins with the Elidil within the walls of Holmgard before flowing out into the seas of the Holm Gulf. A great span, the Alima Bridge, was constructed many centuries ago to provide a way across the river, and from your present vantage point you can see its impressive stone towers, its wide approach ramp, and its granite gateway that is washed by the waning light of the evening sun. In the shadow of the towers there is an area of leveled ground, which is paved with ancient slabs of granite worn smooth by the passage of centuries. This paved area is known as the Alima Mitre, and it is used as a meeting place and a campsite for merchants. Their wagons are bivouacked on the Alima Mitre, and their lanterns are steadily growing brighter as the sun slowly sets below the treetops. Men and women pass along the wagons and horses, busily preparing their camps for the onset of night. And players, as you make your way down towards the camp, what would you like to do?
Here is where we need to gather info. That's what the master said.
Well, we'll shout hail and good evening to the guard.
And
was ever on watch?
Yep, there is. There are a couple of guards there who are warming their hands above an iron brazier full of glowing coals. And they look up and they're kind of, and then they see your green cloak. They see your green cloak, Dawn Thunder, and they immediately, yes, welcome, Kai Lord, and they bow respectfully. Welcome to our camp.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah, you definitely saw a very different reaction when they're like, what? Type of thing.
Yes, anonymous scouts. We Kai Lords have been sent to help you in your distress. We understand that some of your people are missing, or perhaps waylaid, or perhaps have wandered off into the fogwood. Is that the truth?
They nod. And yes, indeed, Lord. In fact, our quartermaster Haldred would be able to say more. It is he who sent for help from you. If you wish, I will bring you to him.
Yes, and with all speed, good sir.
And he nods, and the other guard kind of gives you a respectful distance. And as you walk in, you notice that as you pass, a bunch of the people who are walking along see you and kind of nod respectfully or not. If I haven't made it clear, people are very big fans of the Kai Lords here in Summerland,
Right
largely
on.
because the Kai Lords are what basically put an end to this terrible conflict that ravaged the land, and there's still a great deal of respect that exists for them. And so the wagon of Haldred, the merchant quartermaster, which is where you assume you're being brought, is an impressive semi-permanent structure. The wagon's tent has been erected along the open side of the vehicle, and it has lots of space inside, with its flap drawn aside and tied back with silken rope. And as you walk inside, accompanied by the guard, you see a bearded man, and I'm going to actually show you that person. I'm going to put this now so that you should now be able to see this person, I believe. Let me put this in everyone's journals just to make sure. Okay. Now you should be able to see him, I think. Do you all see on roll 20 this man?
How do you access your journal?
Oh, I'm sorry. I beg your
clicked on
pardon.
it.
Yeah, it's right on the top right. You'll see, if you hover over it, you'll see in the middle, I think it's 3 over from the left.
Yeah,
You'll see
I
it says
found it.
journal.
So he's wiry.
Yes. Wiry and looks as if he's seen, a few winters, but looks quite vital, though. And he's in a high-backed wooden chair behind a desk of yellow oak, and he's sifting through papers and annotating them with a quill pen. And there are ledgers and other sort of trading paraphernalia that cover the table's surface. And when you enter, he looks up from his work and immediately recognizes your distinctive Kai cloaks, and he stands up and bows low. Kai Lords, welcome. Welcome. I am Haldred, the quartermaster. Thank you for answering my call for help. You may go, he says to the guard, and the guard nods and departs. And Haldred says, welcome, all of you. I am most grateful. It has been a difficult time for us over the last several days, and I did not know if the Kai Lords would answer my call, but I am glad to see you.
Well, we haven't come a very long distance, so it's most convenient for the Kai Lords to send us to you. We are, of course, a very experienced and spry team. Please tell us quickly what you need from us.
And so he's kind of like, like he says, well, yes, of course, it is important to get right to business. Well, there are several of our merchants who have gone missing, 4 of them in all, actually. And the senior of these was a sum-lending master trader who had been involved in these routes for many, many years. His name was Trevis. He was in charge of 2 wagons in the caravan, and they were transporting their wares here from Homeguard. Mainly a consignment of animal furs, I believe. There were also perhaps some haunches of salted and cured meat. But they should have returned to the Alima Mitre 6 days ago. On the 5th day, I sent word to the Kai Monastery, and Ishir be praised, here you are in answer to my call. I should have reported their disappearance a little sooner, but, well, it's not uncommon for merchant caravans to be delayed on the King's Highway. There's so much traffic now, back and forth from Homeguard up here. I thought that they would be found, but they have not been, and it is not like Trevis to take this time.
Is there any chance that they might have stopped at the graveyard of the ancients?
And he sort of strokes his beard thoughtfully. I don't believe so. Trevis was always very, well, much like yourself, Kai Lord, right to the point in the purpose. Get the money, get the trade, move on to the next set of goods. I can't imagine him taking any time other than just what was needed for his work.
Are there dangers that the traders have found on the road lately?
Well, and he kind of is sort of, kind of thinking, like, you get the impression he's like sorting through things to say, and he says, well, the merchants are all lightly armed, and they always go with escorts of bodyguards. And this one had 4 of them. The route from Homeguard is relatively safe ever since the end of hostilities, and thanks, of course, to yourselves. I didn't think it was necessary to give them more. 4 bodyguards has always been enough in the past. Sometimes there are outlaws or bandits, but as I say, the route from Homeguard is usually safe.
So has anybody gone to investigate, or is this simply on basis of them not showing up yet?
It is that. I have not sent anyone down so far because, well, I was concerned. If we lost one merchant caravan, we could, or two or three, we could lose even more, and we are merchants, not warriors. I thought it was best to let the Kai Lords know. They might have some information I did not, and certainly skills to seek them out. As far as I know, there was one of the wagons I remember had a damaged wheel, but Trevis assured me that it would be good enough to get to and from Homeguard. He was going to purchase a replacement when he arrived at the capital. But again, as I say, there's also been no sign coming back from any other merchants. We've had several who have come in since then, and they have seen nothing other than normal squirrels and birds and deer on their path.
Squirrels.
Squirrels? Was it a vaguely threatening looking squirrel?
I don't at all know what you mean.
Just wondering.
He stares suspiciously right at Night Fox. No, he doesn't do that. I'm just kidding. No, he seems completely sort of disturbed. What? He doesn't know what you mean.
Sorry, it was just a thought.
Squirrels. Yeah, we saw a few squirrels.
We saw a few, and they
Yes,
seemed
they're-
odd.
There are some in the forest, indeed. Yes. Occasionally.
So what actions have been taken to retrieve them at this point?
Only so far I have increased the guard that have been sent down for any further merchant caravans. I've added a few extra bodyguards, and I've tried to increase our security here. But as far as finding them, you are the people that I have brought, hopefully, to be able to find them. As I say, I did not want to risk more of us. I thought it was not a good idea to lose the potential of more of us to whatever danger awaits. Or perhaps it's nothing. Perhaps it's that damned wheel. I don't know.
Do you think it's a good idea then for us to go from Alma Mater to Homeguard?
That would be my suggestion, for it is between Homeguard and here that they have been lost. And certainly with your skill, I would suspect you would find something.
If a group were to be presented with some obstacle or chased or attacked, is there some culvert or way station that they might have retreated to that we should check first between here and Homeguard?
Yes, quite. Well, past the river, there isn't very much actually between here and Homeguard. Mostly the path, once you've crossed over, follows the main road that leads down to Homeguard. But I suppose the place that would be the most obvious place to retreat would be into the forest to the west of the path, the right as you travel south. There is, of course, this, as you mentioned, and he points to you, Dawn Thunder, I believe it was, the graveyard of the ancients, but it is not a place that anyone would willingly spend extra time, I don't believe. At least, not in certain days and nights of doubt.
A very good place for brigands to hide, though, I believe.
And he again strokes his beard. I had not considered that.
And yet you seem to be assuming that it has been some sort of combat or danger that has waylaid them, and you're de-emphasizing the possibility that it could be a normal delay.
That is true, but 6 days is far too long by normal route. They should have been back days ago, and they have never been late before, certainly not like this. It seems so out of character for Trevis, and so I thought that discretion should be the better part of valor. I have this entire camp to consider as well, and I wish to make sure that there is no danger for us or for others on that route. But you may be right. It may perhaps be completely innocent, but I certainly would not know.
Has other traffic on the road been normal?
Yes, at least so far. There have been 2 caravans that have come in since the missing one, and they reported nothing unusual upon the road.
Was this caravan carrying anything unusual?
Not particularly. There were some valuable black corvale pelts, I believe, animal pelts, and some haunches of salted and cured meat. Well, the pelts probably would have been worth something, but I cannot imagine, though, on the road to Home Guard, bandits here in these days? And he seems sort of like, how is that even possible?
Mm.
In the era of the Kai Lords?
Is there anything else you think we should know before we hurry off to Home Guard?
Well, simply to say that you should be able to make the journey down under normal conditions within a day if you were traveling at normal pace, so it should not take you long to find whatever is there. But I would urge you to be on your guard. If I were to discover that others had been hurt because of my cry for help, I don't know. And he
Oh,
kind of
dear
looks
sir,
down.
don't worry yourself. We're highly trained. We are very competent. All right, my friends. I think we know enough.
As you're sort of looking at each other, you suddenly hear shouts of consternation from outside the tent. You hear, "Unhand me, you villain! Stop, thief! Stop! Help me, please!" You hear this shouting like right outside the tent.
Run out and see what's going on.
So when you rush out of the tent, and is everybody rushing out, by the way?
Oh, sure.
Or is it just me?
Okay.
I'll be
So-
last.
Okay. you arrive last. Rushing out of the tent, you see no more than 30 feet distant 2 men struggling. One appears to be a merchant, and he is down on his knees, and the other is a younger man who is standing over the kneeling man. They are clinging to what looks like, from a distance, a purse which they are holding on to, most likely containing coins, because you can hear this jingling as the younger man is trying desperately to wrest it from the merchant's grasp. And with a sudden twist of his torso, the younger man tears the purse free from the older man's hands and turns to run. And the merchant cries, "No!" as he reaches for the young man rushing off with his purse. What do you do, party? And you won't have much time to make a
Who
decision.
has initiative?
We don't have initiative here, at least not yet. Technically, the highest combat skill will get the chance to act first, though. And so that would be Night Fox. Night Fox, I need a decision from you. What are you going to do about this?
I sprint after the thief.
Okay, let me ask Storm Sparrow what Storm Sparrow's going to do.
I'm just going to ready my bow and cover.
Okay,
Night Fox.
are you following after at a distance? Like, because they're booking it. So are you following with your bow at a distance, or because they're going to be lost in the
I'm
night?
following
pretty
to
quick.
keep within
Got
arrow range.
Cool. Makes sense. Dawn Thunder, what about you?
I'm hauling ass after the thief.
I thought you might. And True Song, what about you?
Run, start to shave a little bit, and pull my shield off my back.
And I think that is an excellent spot as they are in pursuit of this thief for us to take our break. You are watching chat, the really entertaining. I've had a lot of fun. I am joined today by Derek, by Jeffe, by Kelly, and by Mike, playing Lone Wolf, the adventure game The Lost Caravan, all in favor of Bag of Giving. And Mike, I'll let you take us quickly, I guess, to the break. But I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you folks in chat are as well. And we'll be back after Mike talks about the break.
Oh no, why did the cameras go? That's not the thing. I want to go over here. That's better. Hey, that one worked. It was just the wrong thing. Nobody saw anything. It's all fine. We're all fine here. How are you?
Looks fine here.
Oh,
All
great.
perfect.
So we are back with Bag of Giving presents Lone Wolf in partnership with twitch.tv/Arvaneleron, which is where we are right now, unless you're on YouTube and it's the future and the past for us, because time is strange when you make content. I am Mike Underwood. I'm one of the co-founders of Bag of Giving. For this month and this game, we are supporting the National Network of Abortion Funds, and Brandon, my other co-founder and partner in charity, had a chat with one of the organizers of a itch.io bundle that is also supporting NNAF. So the itch.io indie bundle for abortion funds has 1,100 plus works. Some are video games, some are tabletop games, some are comics, some are books. I put an ebook copy of Geekomancy into there. So you can get just like a zillion things for a $10 or more USD donation at itch.io. So basically Itch has these charity bundles that they do where all the money goes to the charity, and there's just a bunch of stuff there. So you can buy that bundle, giving the money to NNAF, and then you can send your receipt of having done so to our email address at Bag of Giving. And in addition to all of the stuff you get from the bundle, you will also get the appropriate number of entries, which is probably going to be 2 or more, depending on what you gave, for our giveaways as well. So your support of NNAF will get you a bunch of cool things. I've looked at this bundle. There's just a zillion things in there. So if you have been waiting to donate, or if you're able to donate a bit more, you can get a whole bunch of things there. So I have put the link to that into the Twitch chat, which is a link from Bag of Giving, kind of quote tweeting the organizer, Caro Assertion, talking about that bundle. So I will get the link to the bundle directly into chat as well, just in case that makes things easier for anybody. And then I'm going to say, nope, I need the command bit. It turns out that typing and talking at the same time is difficult, and it's a skill I'm still working on. So we have the information on how the giveaways work there. And as Triffity Matt says, please don't dox yourself when you send us information. So that is all of the plugging for NNAF for our Bag of Giving game. And now I'm going to throw it back to Greg, our GM, for more Lone Wolf.
All right, welcome back, everybody. When we last left our heroes, they were in the midst of chasing down a thief who was caught red-handed, so to speak, and chasing them out of this camp. So I believe the people who were, there were 2 characters who were back in dealing with bows, Storm Sparrow and True Song, but Night Fox and Dawn Thunder were, to use their terms, booking it, or hauling ass, I think is what Dawn Thunder actually said, to try to get after this person. And so Night Fox, I'm going to say that you, both of you, you and Dawn Thunder both react and give chase, and your Kai training has given you the ability to outrun this young man quite easily. It takes only 20 seconds or so for you to catch up with him, and upon realizing that he can't outdistance you, he skids to a halt and turns to face you. He's drawn a stiletto-bladed dagger from his belt, and he points it towards you provocatively, at first with this sneer, but then he sees your green Kai cloak, and doubt and anxiety wash over him like a cold shower. Your pulse quickens when you realize, the both of you, that you are about to experience, as Storm Sparrow and True Song show up, your first real fight. And the book notes here, there's a possibility it could turn out to be fatal. That is the nature of a fight, yes. What do you do, the 4 of you?
I say, put the knife down. You can't get away. We don't want to hurt you.
And he kind of like, well, how do I know you won't just kill me anyway?
She's got a green cloak.
Can't you see it, son? We're Kai Lord.
He gets this
We're very, very
confused look
pure.
on his face. Well, you're all Kai Lords?
Every last one of us.
Ah,
On
we are
your
pledged.
knees!
So I tap my broadsword and pull it slightly out of the holster, and I say, "Look, this is my stiletto."
Check out my stiletto.
He's packing.
you do have weapon skill, I believe, Night Fox, in broadsword, yes?
Yes,
All right.
I prefer to pronounce it weapons kill.
Weapons kill, yes. So you sort of pull the broadsword out, and he just drops the dagger,
Yeah.
doink, and he falls to the ground.
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm sorry, but mercy, please don't attack me. I'm hungry, and I'm sorry. I didn't. He wouldn't have missed it anyway. I'm sorry, please." And he just completely bails on the fight.
All right.
You-
Is he running away?
No, he is on his knees
All right,
and
sir.
sort of doing this.
I put my arm across his shoulders.
Ah,
Do you have
Oh,
children and a family to feed, sir?
well, and he kind of looks up at you, and then, no, just myself.
Feel his ribs. Is he skinny?
Yes, he is. He actually, you can tell from being right next to him here, Dawn Thunder, that he is malnourished and poorly dressed in this threadbare shirt and breeches made from rough hemp cloth. So, I mean, he's not even wearing armor or anything like that. It's been a while since he's had a legitimate meal.
Well, I'm
Maybe
going
the-
to give him my lunch.
But
Sir,
what about the fishing rod thing? Didn't the Master Kai say about the fishing rod thing? Like, we should not give him our lunch. We should see about getting him a job with the quartermaster. That will feed him every day.
yeah, but does he want to be a traveling merchant? I don't necessarily think that he does. Where do you live?
I live far to the south, in Pickberry, the village, not far from Homeguard.
Oh, well, then perhaps you can help us, dear sir. Here, have a bite of my delicious ham sandwich.
So he reaches for the ham sandwich, and then he looks at you like, "You're sure?"
Yes, absolutely sure. Please have a bite of my delicious ham sandwich.
Okay. His version of a bite is to essentially inhale the ham sandwich.
That's good. Yes, he can
that's
have the ham sandwich. That's
pretty much
awesome.
what he has, and he's just absolutely delicious. As you're sort of talking, or waiting for him to be finished chewing and swallowing while this is going on, the merchant himself comes up, and he says, "Oh, wonderful, wonderful! I see you've gotten this rotten thief. Well, did you manage to get my purse back? I hope."
I pick up the purse and the stiletto, keeping the stiletto somewhat hidden, and give the purse back to the guy.
Thank you so much, Kai Lord, and bows respectfully to you, and he says, "I'm so glad. Here, you deserve a reward." And he picks out from the pouch, which is full of coins, pulls out 5 gold coins, gold crowns, and he says, "Here, this is for your trouble."
I hold out my hand.
Okay, so he brings it over, and he's about to drop these crowns into your hand. I'm curious if anyone, if Night Song, or why do we keep saying that? True Song or Storm Sparrow do anything. I know that Dawn Thunder is occupied with the thief.
I've got the thief.
So, but
I'm
the
just-
other two.
I'm really wondering. I've relaxed the bow now, since the situation appears to be well in hand. But I'm wondering if everything is as it appears here.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I would like to confer with the group, and I'm not clear on whether I can confer with the group without being overheard. But I'd like to warn Night Fox about taking monetary compensation, that this can lead to possessions and greed.
You could just do
Oh,
that
good
if you
point.
wish. You could
Okay.
just say to him, "Hey,
Hey.
look,
Hey, look, consider that said.
Maybe
I've-
just let the
I've
coins drop
thought
on the
about
ground.
all the angles here.
There's a long pause, and also the merchant is just holding the coins uncertainly.
Do it. Take it. we'll make sure that it goes to a good cause.
Yeah. So I take those.
I see. And so he seems slightly surprised as you accept a cash reward. A reward of cash.
I tried
As
to
a
warn you,
High Lord
Nightbox.
cash reward.
And then I give them to the guy who stole.
You're handing it straight
Oh,
to
you
the
hand
dude?
it to the thief?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, who is a little occupied with his ham sandwich, but if you drop it next to him,
He inhaled it.
the merchant says, "Well, wait a minute now. No, that's not a reward for a common thief. I was rewarding you for getting my property back."
Kylords don't take rewards.
Oh, well,
Have you seen this person before?
no, never seen him before. A traveling vagabond, I imagine.
Not at all. This is a local man of known family somewhere to the south. As a matter of fact, he might be able to provide us with some good information about your missing compatriot.
Oh, well, and he says, "You mean our friends who've gone missing on the road?"
Yes,
Well-
merchant, what do you know about that?
Ooh, good
I'm-
question.
Trevis was a friend of mine, and a very good merchant he was too, excellent in trade, always a fair dealer, and was reliable as well. Now, if you think that this one is responsible, and he kind of
No.
points at the guy, the thief's like this.
We do not.
Ah. He says, "Well," he says, "I suppose that would certainly be glad to see Trevis returned. But thievery is, well, that's wrong."
Yep. Well, that's true, but desperate people do desperate things.
Oh, well.
And this man is clearly starving. He's very malnourished. And he really loves ham sandwiches. So, I can't really fault him for that. And so we'll be on our way with our new guide.
Merchant, I'm curious. Have you recently traveled the road to Homeguard?
It is, and he bows slightly and he says, "It is Merum, my lord, and yes, I have. I only came back from there perhaps a week ago or so. It was fine, no problems at all. The bandits seem to be non-existent, or so I thought," and he kind of glares slightly at the thief again.
A week. You were a week ago, and these people went missing 6 days ago.
That's correct. He left right after we arrived back in camp.
Do we have any way to truth tell or interrogate?
You can try to gather information, first of all, possibly through the use of Sixth Sense. There are certain cases where I think we talked about the investigation skill that True Song has, but that's less about insight and more about kind of gathering information from what's there. Probably Sixth Sense would be the best way to do it. There are, I think, spells, although I don't believe anyone has one of them, that basically is kind of almost like a mind reading type of spell, but I don't think any of you have that at the relatively opening levels, let's say.
I think the
Don-
master has that.
What's
the
that?
masters do.
Well, Dawn Thunder, what does your sixth sense tell you here?
I'll cast my Sixth Sense over. Can I do an area effect, or can I just put it on one person?
Yeah, you can do it as an area effect thing. And again, the Sixth Sense, remember, is kind of a general sense of spidey senses tingling, a danger in a particular area. So, but as you do that, you don't notice any obvious or immediate danger around here. It's not necessarily specifying the merchant is telling the truth. It doesn't really work that way. But but there's not anything obviously arousing your suspicion.
So.
And the thief has finished the ham sandwich by now, by the way.
So why don't we get moving on the road? We've gathered
Yes,
all
we
the
have-
information we need. We can bring this guy away to keep him out of trouble.
Yeah.
Bring him back to his place.
Head around, bounce, head south.
Buy him a chicken.
And we can talk to him gently, bribe him with lunch, and see if he knows anything about the missing people.
One thing I should ask the group is, it is now falling under the cover of night, so you've been traveling most of the day. Are you going to set camp? And if so, do you camp with the merchants here at the Alima Miter, or do you set camp separately? How do you want to conduct that? Or you could try to go through the night, but that could have an effect on, your readiness for action the following day because you have been traveling all day.
Well, I'm very comfortable in the wild. We could just camp outside.
Let's camp on the edge. I'm going to have to go seeing if anybody wants to give me a sandwich.
If we camp
For
near the
breakfast.
merchants, we can keep an eye on them for anything suspicious too.
Okay.
Yeah, let's make a camp, but let's set watches through the
Hmm.
night. Yep.
Sounds
And
good.
if somebody wants to take the first watch,
I can.
I'll take the second watch.
All right,
True
I'll take third.
And True Song take fourth.
Yep.
And while Night Fox is doing the first watch, I'll go try and charm a sandwich out of somebody.
They actually will, without even having to charm, the merchants are grateful to you. So you actually can all get warm broth and bread. Talking fresh bread here too, not of the, like it's good, freshly baked bread, and very solid and comfortable. So much so that you will not have to cross a meal off of your chart because you are given a meal instead. Night Fox could still hunt if you want to, but you don't have to. The food here is relatively plentiful.
Cool. Well, I will give my bedroll to thief guy.
What's his name?
His name, he tells you, is Dandros.
Dangerous.
Sounds like a 1970s science fiction villain.
Dandros of the thief people. Yeah.
Of the thief people. And Dandros, don't go running off.
No,
just don't.
I won't. I wouldn't have anywhere to go.
Dandros, do you have a trade?
He looks now. Merrim at this point has walked away back to the other merchants, but he kind of looks nervously and he says, well, there was a time when I was involved in woodworking, but I haven't done that for a long time, Lord. My trade has been, he kind of gestures helplessly at the merchants, working off of them, so to speak.
Oh, so he's a career thief.
Could 5 gold get you back into a trade?
Possibly. This could maybe set me up, and then he catches sight of you and he's like, oh, you mean another trade? Well, and he sort of, his face falls slightly.
Coming and going to this field on the regular. I have to imagine that need for one who can work wood, repair or replace wooden goods would be in some demand.
Wheels.
Go ahead, Darren.
Oh, I just said the word wheels.
Axolotls.
Wheels, yeah. And he says, but lords, I that's true, but none of that would be, well, the merchants, you see, they don't pay particularly well, and it's hard to survive on that sort of thing, and I don't know that they would accept someone like me. Well, Merrim himself would talk me down to everyone because I tried to take enough money to survive.
So, Dandros, I'm curious if you have been very familiar with the merchant caravans and following them all this time.
And he
Do you
nods.
have any idea what may have happened to that missing caravan?
One possibility. You realize that bandits, for whatever anyone else say, bandits have been increasing in number. I've noted some of them, and not just the ones who steal from the rich and give to, well, me. There are also ones who have been engaged in terrible activity in some cases, things that I would never involve myself in, murder and destruction and death. There's a group of rough and ready types, I suppose you might say, from somewhere far to the east. I don't even think they're from Somland, from Sommerland, and well, ever since they've entered, there's been a change, as if they've gotten more vicious somehow. So it doesn't surprise me that there's some getting more bold in their attacks, but everyone just looks at me and thinks I'm a common thief. What do I have to say?
Do you ever set snares for venison?
He says, "Not really. I'm not a poacher. I've occasionally been able to, well, perhaps catch a rabbit unawares, but usually I, well, relieve others of their previously prepared meals.
Yeah.
It's a meal plan, I call it, really."
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're taking this with with us in the morning. So
All
don't
right.
go anywhere during the night.
Will there be other ham sandwiches?
Yes. indeed,
All right, then.
Shelby.
He seems incredibly pleased and relieved that he's actually going to have food. And he says, "All right, then. Well, I won't run away. I'll be able to help as much as I can. I'm not much of a fighter, you understand. I'm more of a reliever of objects. But I will make sure that I don't do that, of course, to you, especially if there's food in the offing." He kind of gives you a weak smile.
Every party needs a thief.
So having set the watch, basically, as I believe you're doing, the rest of the night passes relatively uneventfully, although there are several moments, True Song, you notice in the end as the dark is beginning to gradually lighten, where Dandros, who has been sleeping, obviously, where every so often he stirs slightly in his sleep and calls out and sort of moves his arm as if trying to protect himself from something happening to him. But he does not get up or flee or anything like that. And otherwise, the night passes relatively uneventfully. And after breakfasting with the merchants at the Alina Mitre, you gather up your equipment and are able to ascend the wide stone ramp that approaches the impressive twin stone towers and gatehouse of the Alima Bridge. Now, I assume, by the way, that you folks are going to be, but I shouldn't assume, I should ask, are going to continue on your path down towards Holmgard. Because, I mean,
Yes.
Dondras doesn't have any specific place like, oh, yeah, obviously they're here. But, you know, that's the path you were following, but I don't want to assume.
Moving south towards Holmgard.
And
Past.
keeping an eye out for that ancient graveyard.
And trying to track the broken wheel of the of one of the wagons of the missing party. There was a broken wheel.
Yes, that's right.
yes.
Yes, indeed. All right. I will talk about that because that's going to be important. I'm going to show you all first, though, as you come close to this thing. I'm going to show you, and I'm going to put this in all of our journals. Where's my thing? There we go. I'm going to show you what this bridge looks like as you come to it, because it is quite impressive. It's a little bit, apologize for that bottom, but you can see for yourself, it is a great structure, and it is, in fact, one of the prides, really, of Sommerland, that they were able to put this together, this strong and powerful bridge, which is needed to cross a very wide, as we said, almost a mile wide here, river. And so...
So, Dandros, how
Yes.
do you get across this bridge?
Oh, that was easy enough. There are often traffic that goes back and forth from one side to the other. As long as you're careful, you can, well, he kind of vaguely waves his hand, pass through unseen, you know, with others, next to others, behind others, underneath others sometimes.
Excellent.
And this ancient bridge, as you're starting to cross over it, is a little over a mile long, and it comprises a series of these elegant stone compression arches, interrupted at regular intervals by grand towers and these huge granite piers. And at the center, there stands what is known as the Dern Stone. It is the largest of the central piers of the Alima Bridge, and it is also used, you know, as a marketplace. There are merchants from both Holmgard and Torren who come here to buy fish and timber and ore from the Firelunding, who are the hardy Somlending of the West, who make their livelihood in the forests and foothills of the Derncrag Mountains. Passing under the arches of the gatehouse, these two psalm-lending reeves, basically the guards of the bridge, nod in acknowledgement of your distinguished order. Maybe they are reassured by the presence of the Kai Lords, and they are there. So you can continue on if you wish to the Durnstone, or you could do something else as you cross over this bridge. It's up to you.
All right, I think we'll just cross along.
Can I ask discreetly if any of them might have seen a wagon crossing with a broken wheel or a damaged wheel?
And so you're asking one of the reeves this as you go by. So the reeve says, and he kind of, I don't, let me think. This is going to give us an opportunity to do, Night Fox, a luck test. Luck tests don't happen too often, but occasionally a luck test comes into play. And so what you're going to do here is, now normally you would take, if we were playing around the table, a luck token, which they have, flip it up into the air, and if it lands heads, it's lucky, and tails, it's not. So what I will do here is I'm going to use this incredibly dramatic. Actually, no, I'm not going to do it. You should do it. Do you have a coin that you could use for this purpose?
I think only in the car.
Do you have something with two sides that are obvious? If not,
can I roll a D2 on the
sure, you could do that.
thingy?
That's fine.
Because I've never for real, I don't think rolled anything. So roll, hang on, I have to type slash.
Yeah, or you could also do just the sidebar. If you clicked on the little sidebar, the die icon, then you'll see there should be advanced rolls. Oh, actually, I guess it doesn't give you a D2. It
Just
gives
do
you
a odd and
D4.
even.
Yeah, you could do odd even as well. That would
Can
also
somebody
work.
else then roll it for me? I don't want to hold up the game.
Okay.
So let's say odd will be lucky, even is not. Oh, well, there you go. Odd is lucky then.
All right. Good job.
So Kai's luck is upon you, apparently, Night Fox. And one of the reeves, after thinking about it, nods affirmatively. Oh, yes, I remember that caravan. I remember that it passed by here and crossed over the bridge on its way to the capital. It was, must have been a week ago almost. There's something up with the wheel, I know, as he was going across it. Old Trevis comes by this way regularly. I've not seen him since he left. I hope he's all right. Actually, he hasn't come back. And he looks at the other reeve, and the other reeve shrugs.
Yeah, we're just looking for him. So thank you.
And he nods and bows respectfully.
As
So yeah,
we walk on
right.
the bridge, I say, this is so strange that everybody is bowing to us. This is so strange.
Oh no, it's completely normal.
Have you been outside of the monastery during training? Because I haven't. And all of this
No,
is
but
like
you know,
weird.
we're Kai Lords.
You're from a noble family. I just got picked up, and now they're calling me Lord. Like, do you think I should be a Lord? Look at this. This is.
You passed the test.
Yeah, I feel like you're
What is this the
becoming
test?
distracted.
Thinking about
by-
it too much.
Yeah. Overthinking here.
Yeah, let's do some tracking. Track that broken wheel.
All right. I can track things. I'm not confident that
Who's
I can
the best?
track a
Who's the
broken
best
wheel.
tracker?
Well, I'm a good tracker, but can I only track animals?
Not necessarily, but it would be helpful to tell me what exactly you're like what things you're looking for in your tracking.
I would like to track the trail of that uneven broken wheel.
Okay. So, as you're making your way across the Alima Bridge looking for these tracks, first of all, I should note that you're astounded by this grand feat of psalm lending engineering, wide enough to easily accommodate these two lanes of wagon traffic and so forth. But as you're making your way across and over the bridge, you find Storm Sparrow probably about 3/4 of the way over. There's a lot of mud and dirt on this side of the bridge. It's possible that there was a lot of rain within the last week or so, and it's possible that that may have kicked up some mud on horses and wagon hooves that are still, some of it's left here on the cobblestone of the bridge. And so you'd find these telltale tracks of a heavily laden wagon. And as you make your way down following it, and the reason that you're noticing it is because the way that the mud tracks are, it's clear that one of the wheels is out of true with the others. So that's one of the ways you're able to find this. And as you go down, you eventually find it in this soft soil at the side of the King's Highway. However, you notice once you get right to the other side of the bridge that the tracks, one with a damaged wheel, left the King's Highway and headed off across the adjacent fields in a due easterly direction, basically right on the other side of that bridge.
Oh, towards Warland.
Yep.
Well, so shall we follow?
So I say to Storm Sparrow, look, I thought it was a terrible idea to try tracking wheels a week after with all these other carts going over them, but you just found this stuff, and this must be the thing that they said that we were supposed to be learning from each other. I never would have thought of that. Even though I'm a tracker. And the way that Dawn Thunder just keeps taking charge and makes people say, like, do what I say, like maybe this is what we're all supposed to be learning from each other.
That's very true. You can learn a lot from me.
True song. As you are listening to this exchange, your sixth sense warns you that you are being watched by someone or something in the distant trees to the east of the highway. The tracks heading roughly in that direction.
So without kind of trying to make any gross movements, True Song will say, Storm Sparrow, I'm going to pretend like I'm pointing at something that's not quite where I want you to actually look. But if you can look from the corner of your eye, and then I'll kind of describe where I saw something or thought we've been watched. I believe we are all being watched by someone. Now, as Kai, we're frequently being watched since leaving the monastery, as we've all found. But if this is in fact the junction where the caravan left the road, then we may have bandits or someone else scouting for likely targets leaving the major road. And I don't know if any of you have better eyes than I to be able to see more.
Well, equally casually, I'm going to put my arm around Dandros's shoulders and say, do you have any compatriots in this area?
No, I've always worked alone. Why?
I very stiffly look in a direction away from the way everybody else is looking. I don't want to give up the goose, the something.
Okay. So the three of you and Dandros are looking one way, and very distinctly Night Fox is like, back towards the
and
river.
Storm Sparrow is looking in a third direction while trying to long distance spot from the corner of my eye.
I don't know,
I
just
see.
like casual, Chewy.
Yeah,
Go casual
just
life.
compass rose casual. So Storm Sparrow, out of the corner of your eye, and I would say, now, True Song, are you also? I know you were saying you were pointing in a direction that's not that, or were you also, True Song, kind of looking in that general vicinity?
Was muted. I would love to get a better look, but am trying to not basically act like prey.
Yeah, like,
is
right,
of the
exactly.
way that I think
I
True Song is thinking about it.
Okay, so I think then that Storm Sparrow probably would be the one to most clearly see that as you're kind of peering off at the distant woodland, out of your corner of your eye, you think you see, and you kind of just shift your eyes enough, Storm Sparrow, to see a distinctly human silhouette framed between the trunks of two trees. and it pauses for a few moments before moving out of sight.
Oh, will I inform the others that I have seen this shadow flee and wonder, should we pursue?
Well,
Is it within arrow range?
Probably not, but it's not that far away, but that would be a heck of a shot from this distance.
Yeah, and I would hesitate to simply shoot without asking questions first.
Haldred suspected that the caravan went missing on the way back from Home Guard, not on the way to, and that is curious. Do any of you have thoughts of how or why? If they left the trail here, it seems unlikely that they would have been waylaid and forced off the road by bandits. They might have moved aside to make repairs or something. The bridge is just there. It would be rather strange for a bandit to strike so easily within reach of the reeves and everything else.
Yeah, but I didn't trust that guy. I wasn't sure he was telling us the whole story.
All right. I believe we should send two people after this strange figure. Scout.
So Storm Sparrow and I both can track. If I go with one of the people who can't track, then Storm Sparrow and the other person who can't track can then be sure to follow us.
Okay. I'll go with you. Actually, I can track too, but not as good.
Okay. So I fly casual towards where Storm Sparrow saw the silhouette.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Let's just go like we're going to go take a pee or something.
Okay. I already have my pants off.
What I love about this image, by the way, is that it's about 10 minutes by jogging pace. So I have this image of you just like, time to pee, 10 minutes running in one direction, you know.
Well, there's not a lot of cover otherwise.
No, there's not
know?
really. And you're a
Yeah,
Kai Lord, so like really, you
Yeah.
got to be careful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I understand it then, Night Fox and Dawn Thunder are going to go, and then Storm Sparrow and True Song. Now, Storm Sparrow and True Song, you're following in the same direction but behind at a distance? Is that basically right?
Or
am I
are we staying on the road?
Stay with Dandros.
Yeah, I think someone's
Dandros
got to
can't
keep
move
an
very
eye.
fast, and we need Dandros.
Okay. So, in that case, I will say that Night Fox and Dawn Thunder, you make your way again at this. Now, are you doing this sort of steady jogging pace, like not bolting towards it full speed, but like, you know?
Yeah, like gotta pee, but it's not urgent yet.
Okay. So it takes you about 10 minutes, and then you get to this gap in the tree line where you saw the mysterious watcher. And immediately, even if you didn't have tracking, you can find the footprints of this person in the soft soil. In fact, the imprints are so clear and fresh that even those without tracking would be able to spot these with ease. And the tracks lead off into the woods.
Okay, you have Sixth Sense, don't you, Dawn Thunder?
Yeah, Sixth Sense it.
So, because the thing is, if we follow this guy direct, maybe him or some compatriots could have looped around and could be waiting to waylay us.
That's true.
So, you're sixth sensing things.
Them sixth sensing things, because this is the direction that the broken wheel went in, right?
Roughly speaking, yes.
Okay.
Do you have stealth, Dawn Thunder?
No. Definitely not.
Maybe this is one of the things you were supposed to learn from me. Like, maybe there's one thing I have to teach somebody.
Uh-huh. Do I have to take my pants off to learn it?
A lot of the time, your legs get scratched. I don't know.
All right. Stealthily pursue, and I will try to stealthily follow.
Okay.
So, and I will come back to True Song and to Storm Sparrow in a moment. But for Night Fox and Dawn Thunder, you follow the fresh tracks through the woods, and the trees hereabouts are deciduous somlending oaks with a distinctive yellowy bark and apple green leaves, and some of the leaves have started to turn a beautiful russet brown color. You notice this because fallen leaves provide this patchy carpet that deadens the sounds of your footfalls, Night Fox, so you're able to show, like, this is how you're even more stealthy than would be the case before. But it also deadens the sounds made by the fleeing watcher, which makes him a little harder to follow than would be the case at any other time of the year, except perhaps during the snows of winter. It's beginning to seem that you're in danger of losing his trail when you come to a part of the forest where the covering of fallen leaves is particularly thick. Now, fortunately, you both have tracking. And so I'm going to ask, let's see. I will ask Dawn Thunder here to make a luck test for me, please.
D20?
Yeah, that's fine, as long as you're doing kind of odd is lucky and even is not.
Oh, okay. So I'll just do D4.
While that luck is going on, I'll say to the
Lucky.
Yay.
Go ahead, Night Fox.
I was just going to say, knowing that our compatriots are going to be following us, I leave little bits and pieces of debris and stuff that would be easily findable by a tracker, but not by a regular person.
Okay. Sounds good. I was wondering if you were putting symbols in the earth for, like, pants with like a, X drawn through it. Just your crest, really, your family crest.
I would recognize that as I follow, yes.
So as you are thinking about this, Dawn Thunder, and you're kind of paying attention to the tracks, you hear a short cry of pain and surprise. And it comes from among the trees directly ahead of you.
Uh-oh. Somebody's gotten me into one of those traps.
Maybe 20 feet from you.
All right. I think somebody's gotten me into one of those rather nasty poacher traps. So let's carefully run ahead, looking to avoid any other traps and help the person out.
Okay.
Is that good? So you press on with your pursuit then, and a few moments later, you happen upon the lifeless body of a man who was lying at the foot of a somlending oak. He is dressed in travel-stained clothes that even from here smell strongly of body odor. Been a long time since a bath for this person. He is wearing an old leather jerkin and a brown woolen hat, and there's a bow lying by his side along with a quiver containing 4 arrows. Attached to his belt is a short sword and a black leather scabbard, and his head is twisted in an unfortunate way. If you had to guess, you would suspect that in his haste to escape you, this person tripped over the roots of the tree and slammed headfirst into its trunk. You have a suspicion that this man's neck is broken.
Is he truly dead? Feel for a pulse.
No pulse at all. Yeah, he looks completely dead.
Do I have room for his 4 arrows in my quiver?
You do, and they seem to be in pretty good repair.
I might as well take those and the short sword and the bow.
The short sword, just to note, the short sword, the hilt is badly corroded and the blade is deeply pitted with rust.
I'm wondering if Dandruff would want it, though.
Dandros?
I want to call him Dandruff too. That's
Poor
great.
Dandros. Being called
For
Dandruff.
Dandros.
I'm
My
collecting
goodness.
equipment for Dandruff.
Okay.
He's been without good shampoos for a while.
Yeah.
And I might as well. Is there a blessing we can give on behalf of Guy to the departed spirits?
Absolutely. You could. To kind of ease passage to the next realm with Kai, of course.
All right. Then I lay my hand on and I say, we might not have been friends in life and we might have been adversaries just a moment ago, but may you go in peace wherever it be that you're going.
You also note, by the way, as you do this, you feel kind of a calm come over you, Night Fox, as you do this. And you also note that there is a small woolen drawstring bag that is attached to his belt. You note as you put your hand on his torso to do this.
Yeah, as an ex-thief, I extricate it to look at it.
There are 6 gold crowns within this bag.
My goodness, this is more than enough to set up Dandros. Okay, I pocket those to give to somebody else later.
He was going somewhere specific. Is there a trail that leads on from here?
There does not seem to be. It seems like he was trying to perhaps escape, but there's no trail extending beyond this spot. Where he entered from is unclear. Maybe from the same direction you came from, unknown.
Is there like a tracking feat that we could use to see if like he was doubling back the way he'd come?
He definitely wasn't double. I mean, yes, and the tracking skill that you already have, he's definitely not doubling back the way he came, at least in this short space, because it's a fairly small clearing. Remember, you just followed him around. He didn't even have time to kind of start making the curve to turn around to go back the other way before he had just tripped over this route, and
So the point at which he was first observed, if we went back to there, we could use the tracking to then find out where he'd been before.
Theoretically, although, yeah, that's right. You could, yes.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah. I'll leave the guy with his short sword in his pants.
Okay.
And his arms crossed over his breast.
Okay.
And his head resting on moss.
Okay. You can do that as you head back towards the dirt. Back with Storm Sparrow and with True Song, the man Dandros sort of looks off and then watching them and then says, "What happens if they get ambushed over there?"
After some amount of time, if they have not returned, we will go and see what has happened. But they are both well trained, and I imagine that it will not be long.
How can you be so calm about it, though? They could get attacked from anywhere, and they're only human. I mean, they're Kai Lords, yes, but they're human still. How can you just be so calm?
Andros, do you have reason to suspect they will be ambushed?
No, not from me, but I've told you those bandits have been on the rise. I have been ambushed myself in the past. That's why I'm always careful not to go into strange places.
The Kai Masters spend a great deal of time working with us so that we hone our senses, such that we can avoid an ambush, such as the one you describe. Yes, we are all still mortal, but I have confidence that they will be back soon.
He nods slowly and he says, "Do the Kai Masters teach you agility, stealth, agility, grace, those sorts of things?"
Why do you ask?
Well, I don't know. Perhaps I don't always want to spend my whole life as a common thief. Maybe if there's, ham sandwiches to be found, I don't, well, one can change their life, maybe, I'm saying. Sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Sorry, I was going to answer, but then I realized I'm not there, so.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the city watch in Homeguard have thief catchers, thief takers, and that it may be a steadier living helping others find and recover things from thieves than being the thief yourself. And perhaps a chance to do some woodworking, maybe take a late apprenticeship or find someone looking for a partner if you wish to leave that time in your life behind you.
He kind of rubs the back of his neck. You're asking me to go straight, Kai Lord.
It may be a less glamorous life, but probably also a less dangerous one. And if it is dangerous times, as you're saying, from these bandits, it may be wise to take yourself from a place of danger.
And he kind of nods thoughtfully. And at this point, Dawn Thunder and Night Fox have reached back to the place where they entered, and you find again those tracks, but the tracks seem to lead in the direction that you came from. Probably a while ago, obviously, but it looks like they came through the fields just like you did.
I look at Dawn Thunder as if she's in charge.
Yeah, what did you find out, guys?
Oh, sorry, you're not back yet. You're still in the soil at the gap, in the
Oh.
woods. The Dawn Thunder and Night Fox are, unless
see.
they now head back to you, which they can do if they wish.
Well, I think we will head back towards them.
Okay, so yeah,
That's
so
what I
when they
think.
arrived,
Well, we found another lone bandit. Now, Dandros,
yes,
I'm sorry to tell you that your compatriot with the gray beard and the squinty eyes and the streak of white in his hair, he's dead.
the what? The who? What
Okay.
compatriot with street? What? I don't have anyone like that. I work alone.
Yes, you've told us that many times. I do believe you now, I think.
And he sort of looks vaguely. Oh, I'm, like I said, the ham sandwiches are good here. So
Mhm. Well, Night Fox, you might want to hand over our yellow stuff.
We could find somebody else deserving as well. I don't know.
It's true. Can we do that?
Yeah.
If I hold on to it for charity, it's not legally mine.
No.
Dandros just does this like slow turn of the head towards you.
Night Fox, let someone else hold whatever it is you found.
All right, I hand over the 6 gold to Dawn Thunder.
Oh, and I hand it over to Storm Sparrow.
Oh, all right. I'll stow it in the bottom of my quiver.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, let's keep. Now, we have been tracking the broken wheel.
That's right.
And we had been following it towards. Basically, the broken wheel track went dead, right?
No, it goes over the fields to the east. Roughly in the direction of the forest area, sort of, but kind of going off its own way eventually.
What do you think, folks?
Let's follow that.
Let's
A
follow
lot
it.
of clues about bad stuff being in the east.
Yeah, let's follow it.
Follow
the track of the broken wheel.
Okay.
As
So
we walk, I give Storm Sparrow 2 more arrows.
Oh, thank you. It's very sweet of you. Very generous and non-collecting of things.
The other sword I've got, like I could have gotten a sword, but I didn't. And this I'm gonna give to somebody else. This is not my test.
We're not testing you.
Well, just conversation.
As you make your way across the fields, you find the tracks are heading towards, and if you all look to the south of the Alima Bridge, you will see this, Lake Helmar.
Lake. I knew it would be the lake.
Yep, Lake Helmar. And the Lake Helmar is known for being quite beautiful, and it would be an ideal place to stop and enjoy a meal were it not for what you see. And I'm going to show you another handout here, which I believe everyone should be able to see, but I will make sure now you should be able to see it.
Wagons!
Oh no!
Yes, a gruesome remains of a crime that took place here a week ago. One of the 2 wagons is missing a wheel from its rear axle, and the other vehicle lies overturned and partially submerged in the waters at the edge of the lake. The horses that were used to pull these wagons have been cut free from their traces and are nowhere to be seen, but you can see even as you're walking up to them that both wagons have been emptied of their cargoes. There is no obvious sign of either merchants or bodyguards who rode the horses all the way from Homeguard. What would you like to do?
Can I examine the interior of the wagons? Something like salted meat should have left a smell.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You can do that,
Let's
Night Fox.
Sixth
Go ahead.
Sense first.
And Sixth
Okay.
Sense. You don't get anything from Sixth Sense here, at least not right around the wagons, from what you can tell. As you're searching, looking at the wagons, though, Night Fox, there are patches. You don't find any particular. I mean, there is a little bit of smell, but it's faint. But what you see even more closely is patches of dried blood on the floors and sides of the empty wagon. And there are 2 arrows embedded deeply in the wooden side of the wagon that is overturned and half submerged in the lake, while the other wagon has 3 other places where it was also struck by arrows, but the missiles have been removed. You see only the puncture holes made by their steel tips, and there are gouge marks presumably made by a dagger that was used to like dig them out of the wood after they were used.
And for reference, my arrows have steel tips or do not?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so that's a common thing to have
Yes.
steel tips.
Yes. And
Right.
it's another reason, by the way, they're kind of valuable too, like as opposed to just the straight wooden arrow. So maybe one of the reasons why to retrieve them.
Greg, I
Okay.
want to do a Boondock Saints.
Okay.
Where they, if you remember the scene where the investigator basically reverse plays the scene,
Yeah.
because I want to do investigate, basically looking at all the things and then kind of mentally trying to roll back what has happened, so that I can get a sense of either where the attackers came from, or where they left to.
I love this image, True Song, and the rest of you watch as True Song kind of literally almost like backs up from the wagon, like following the tracks, or following the path there. True Song, as you kind of make your way back over, as you investigate this, and you Sherlock Holmes it, as you say, Boondock Saints it backwards, you get closer and closer to foliage along the tree line, close enough that you can detect the cloyingly sweet smell of decomposing flesh.
Oh, gross.
So I will kind of wave and gesture to the others to come over before investigating, just in case there is also badness there, and make sure that my shield is at the ready.
I
Trot
say to
over.
Storm Sparrow, this is maybe what we were all sent to learn.
Learn death is bad.
No, just the way that True Song just figured that out.
But truce is good. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. Let's
Let's-
investigate the smell of decomposing flesh.
And you all smell it now when you come to True Song there. You don't have to go too far, actually, based on this scent, to come to the place where there are 6 corpses which have been dumped. Based on the armor and so forth that they're wearing, you're pretty sure that 4 of these are bodyguards. They're sort of more heavily armored than the others. And one of the merchants, now there was more than one merchant that went on this trip, lie here. The 6th body is neither a bodyguard nor a merchant. It is the corpse of one of their attackers, kind of a rough and ready man with dark, stubbly hair around his greasy chin, with a slashed and cut leather tunic, kind of lying with his sightless eyes staring up at the sky. So there are 5 that are definitely either bodyguards or merchant, and 1 who was presumably one of the attackers. And by the way, I should point out that attempt has been made to cover the bodies with fallen leaves, clearly, but not very well. And some of the larger woodland animals that live in the forest, without getting into great details, have kind of, gnawed at the exposed hands and faces of the fallen.
It was probably just to see if they were okay.
Yeah, just checking to make sure they were all right.
So
Squirrels?
Dandra said that the kind of new class of bandits that moved in were from far to the east. Does anything about this fallen bandit remind me of something that I would associate from that region?
Definitely, if you are willing to investigate a little bit more closely the body itself.
Yeah. So,
Investigate.
So True Song kind of redoes some of her cloak to kind of raise it up over her nose and try to make it tight, and then takes kind of long, shallow breaths as she kind of kneels and goes into the cover to investigate more closely.
Okay. This is, as you might suspect, True Song, grisly work, but it has to be done. And from this clothing, you can tell that the person who was killed died as a result of a sword thrust to the chest. You can see that through one particular puncture wound through the tunic. You can also tell that all of these ones here, or I should say, all of on the one's body, has a short sword, and the rest of the tunic looks well worn, but would have been vaguely functional before all the slashes that it took. But you also note as you're looking at it that there is a strange symbol that has been carved in the sort of the front left side of this armor, this strange tunic. And you can see that the symbol, which seems to have been carved into the tunic, looks to be of a long-bladed axe. You have not seen this before, True Song, certainly not from Sommerland.
So I want to try and commit that symbol to memory without
Okay.
having to draw it in case it's magic evil.
Okay.
Because if she doesn't know it, then it's either new or very secret and old, is her
Okay.
guess in terms of any iconography or something that she would have been able to study in the archives.
And it's crudely made, by the way, definitely carved, but nonetheless is very obviously
carved
a
with
symbol.
knife.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think having an important bit of detail to share, she has an impulse to leave right away and get away from the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then, heart probably beating faster than she wants, takes another moment to look over the other bodies and make sure that she hasn't missed something.
So you do that quickly, as you said. Most of these, you can see that 2 of the bodyguards were killed by arrows, and it looks like the arrows were basically retrieved from the bodies the same way as they were in the wagons, kind of gouged out for a dagger. The 2 remaining bodyguards died apparently from sword thrusts. Most disturbing is the merchant, whose throat has been cut. And that's more or less what you see, except for there are a couple of, there are a couple of arrows, actually. A quiver that has 6 arrows slung over the back of one of the bodyguards, I should mention as well.
So I want to take the quiver so that then we can compare the arrows in basically the arrow indentations in the cart to these arrows to confirm whether the arrows used were a different type of arrows, or if somebody in the caravan turned traitor or something.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of expose them to whoever this attacking group is.
And compare them to the arrows that we got from the other guy too.
Yeah. And then kind of crab walk out from the cover to stand up, and I don't suppose I have anything to clean my hands off on that isn't just my big cloak.
You have a lake nearby.
I do have a lake nearby. So emerges, kind of looking at her soiled hands, going, I'm going to go clear these off, wash these off on the lake. If you
But
come
first,
with me, I
tell
can.
us what you found out.
Well, they're all dead, yes, and basically then recounts how each of them were killed, and as she goes, her voice gets a little bit steadier as you may get the sense that she's mentally distancing herself from it while repeating data like she's reading it from a book. And then comes to the symbol, which she describes, but then says, but I wouldn't encourage you to carve out that symbol just in case. There are many old stories of symbols with great power.
But Storm Sparrow says, wait, I recognize that symbol. That was on the necklace that was found with me when I was a baby, wrecked in the carriage. What can it mean?
Uh, your people were merchants?
But no, this is like off of the weird greasy bearded guy.
Your people were bandits?
Or from the east.
From the east, where the bad people come from.
Mm. Well, I will gallantly strip off my pants. I'm also wearing a skirt. And offer my pants to True Song to wipe their hands.
I can just wipe
This
them on the-
shows how useful pants are.
This was the lesson.
I
You're
know.
doing this as you're moving towards the lake, all of you,
Yeah.
or no? Just curious.
Is there anything else we need to ascertain? I think finding the bandits themselves may be beyond the remit that the masters gave us for this mission.
True.
Can we pick up the tracks of the bandits retreating from this spot?
So
The horses?
as you
We
look,
have horses?
yeah, as you look, you do find several tracks in the loamy soil around the abandoned wagons. They're mostly booted footprints, but it's pretty safe to conclude that this is where the fight between the caravan and the attackers took place. Some of the footprints and all of the hoofprints lead away from the wagons and trail off around the edge of the lake towards a cluster of wooded hills away to the north. And you notice also, Dawn Thunder, that the horse tracks are unusually deep, which indicates that the animals were heavily laden perhaps when they made them.
They're carrying loot and booty.
So, after True Song has managed to wash her hands and gotten equilibrium and stuff, can we? What did the arrows tell us about stuff that she was saying? The comparisons with what we found from the other four,
Right.
the tree there, the
Well,
wagon.
they do look to be from the same arrows that made the impressions are the ones that you found, including on the guy that was watching you. But as you're about to compare them to each other, you hear a shout from the location of the hills. And as you whirl around, you see this, and I will show you all what you see. Charging down from the hill, you see a group of men and women breaking from the cover of the trees, charging down the lakeshore towards you.
Fascinating.
And they look to be dressed very similarly to the dead one that you saw just a moment ago up there. So at this point, I'm going to ask the players a question, which is that I know we're sitting at about 10:08.
Yeah.
This is the concluding, I believe, fight of the adventure. So my question is, because I don't want people to go longer than they said. We started a little later, so that's why we're going a little later. But the question is, I think we can do this if all goes well in about 20 minutes. I don't know if that's too long for people or not, though, so I wanted to ask.
I'm good with it.
I can stay till 10:30.
Storm Song has received distressing news from back at the monastery and may have to go address that.
May have to depart. I see.
Yes.
Okay, that's totally fine. If that has to happen. I like the image of you just sort of Remo Williamsing over the lake as the bandits are charging towards everybody else.
Sorry, y'all. I mean, I'll try to stay and finish the fight here, but
okay, totally, and I'll try to make it go zip a little. As I say, sorry, because we started a little later. I tried to zip through, but so the way that combat works in this, and I actually will fire up a little bit of music here for folks, so we can get a bit of this. You might be able to hear it in Roll20. Hopefully, just a bit. I try not to tell me if that's too loud. Is that all right for the players?
And here.
Is that
I
okay?
can't hear it.
Oh, okay. Maybe a bit more. Yes-ish.
No.
No. Anyway, little bit of that combat music. So the way that combat works here in Lone Wolf is fairly straightforward. So what happens here is there is a mob of bandits basically that are attacking you, and they are going to have one specific total combat skill. You're fighting the mob, but you are basically damaging them. As you damage them, several of them are dropping or dying, and they are becoming less powerful as a group as you do stuff to them. So your combat skill that they are going to start with is 14, but that's added 2 for every one of you. So basically there's 4 of you, and that means 8, which means they have a combat skill of 22, which is a lot to begin with. But the faster you damage them, the more that they are going to, the quicker they will sort of lose that kind of power. So it behooves you to sort of take damage down on them as you go. You'll be happy to know, though, that those of you with bows can fire off a couple of shots at them each before they get down here, assuming you want to do that, but I
very much want to do that, even though I am somewhat conflicted about, going to force first to defeat evil.
It's fair enough. Yeah, that's up to you as to what you want to do.
I'm
Can
going
I do
to
a
fire.
soliloquy before?
Sure, might not damage them as much, but
It depends how bad the
Alright.
soliloquy is.
that's right.
I'm going to shout in my most commanding voice. Halt! You do not want to fight Kai Lords, for surely you will meet your death.
Ooh.
Well, by my count, I have at least 14 arrows, so I would like to loose the maximum number of them.
All forward 14. Well, you'll each get a chance to shoot those of you with ranged weapons can each shoot twice before the bandits have closed to within close range of you. The way this works is, if you notice, you should have in your handouts a combat results table. And the way that we do this is, starting with Night Fox, do you have a bow?
I do have a bow.
Okay, so assuming you want to fire, then we're going to start with you because you have the highest combat skill.
You want to fire. I don't think I have a combat table.
Well, there's one on Roll20 that you should be able to see, actually, which I fired up anyway. So what we do is we take your combat skill, which is 19.
Yeah.
Their combat skill, as I mentioned, is 22.
Yeah.
So we subtract that, and that gives you -3. And if you look at the column at the top, it says -4, -3 right there at the top. So what you're then going to do is you're going to, because you're firing a bow, you're going to roll a 10-sided die, and we're going to see what happens to them as you do that.
Okay, so I go to the chat and I type in /roll 1d10.
Yes.
I did it.
Did you do it?
There it is.
Oh, there it is. I see it. Wow,
Nice.
and a
What
10.
did I
That
do?
is a
Critical hit.
That is very impressive. So as you'll note, if you go all the way to the bottom under 10, it says the enemy loses 10 endurance, and the hero takes no damage. You wouldn't take any damage anyway because you were firing from a distance, but still. So that was quite impressive. So let's see. So they have got...
I think the more impressive thing was that I actually made the software roll a die for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, that was also really good stuff. Okay, so let's see, and then let me just double check on the thing with the stuff.
Now let's see.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so that is so that's you. Now you get to do twice, so you get to do 2 shots. So you get to take another shot there, Night Fox.
All right. /roll 1d10.
3.
And that's a 3. So if we look down on that same column, starting with you have a -3, and you look down there, they lose only 3 points. Now, you normally, if you were in melee combat, would lose 5, but because you are firing at them from a distance, that means they simply get hit. So you have done a lot of damage. Your first shot basically hits like 3 guys and takes them down on the way. So very impressive opening salvo. Okay, next person with a bow, Storm Sparrow, you have, I believe, one. So you can also fire twice. Your combat skill is 18. So the good news is that because they have been whittled down, their skill is not as strong as it was. They have only a 20 now. So that means negative. That means 18 minus 20. So you're using the column, which is -2. And then again, you're going to roll a 10-sided die and use that column. 5 and a 3. So the 5 is -6 to the enemy. Again, you don't take any damage because this is ranged. The 3 is -4, so they take -10. So you've actually hit a few more. This party is now just stumbling down. There's only like 2 people that are left now in this group because you are so deadly have been the bow shots.
Right.
So good stuff. Dawn Thunder, you have a bow?
No, I don't have a bow. I don't have any ranged weapons. I just have a dagger. Can I throw my dagger?
No, that unfortunately
okay.
not from this distance.
Does
True
she have
Song.
trash talk?
She does have trash talk. Well, it appears to have worked because they are getting torn up here. True Song, what about you? Do you have a bow?
All I see is mace and helm, so I'm
Okay.
basically just trying to give cover to the archers.
Okay.
Protect Dandros. Get him under cover.
Yeah, Dandros, who is like practically in the, as you turn around, Dandros has submerged himself in the lake. So he's just the nose right above, watching as this attack happens. That brings us up to the top. So now we're in melee combat, because the ranged people have fired. So we start with Night Fox again. You are now right next to one of the remaining bandits. And that bandit looks very nervous, but also looks kind of desperate. He only has 18 at this point because of all the damage you've inflicted. So it's 18 against your 19. So you actually have an advantage, a +1. So you can now roll your 10-sided die, and we're going to see what happens with that.
Okay. /roll 1d10.
8.
And 8. And looking down that column, I see the enemy loses 11, which means you have slaughtered him. Those ranged shots have taken him out. And the last bandit falls, and you're all about to sort of leap around and cheer until you turn around. You hear a roar of rage, and walking down is a massive man with a long-bladed, long-hafted axe. Storm Sparrow, you are immediately reminded of that necklace symbol. He looks very, very mean. And as he comes down, he shouts out a challenge, and he says, "Kai Lords! You may have destroyed my rabble, but you will not destroy Logrim the Bloody. Come and face your fate." And he is upon you. Now, you've been dealing with these guys down there, so you don't get any range shots on this guy. Since Night Fox has already gone, Storm Sparrow, you were up next. If you want to engage him with melee, you can, if you wish.
Well, I will, because I have great skill with the quarterstaff.
Okay. So your combat skill is 18. His combat skill is 20. This guy is no joke. And you're talking a -2. So you roll your 10-sided die here.
All right.
Can we do a coordinated attack?
You end up working one on another. As you get higher levels as initiates, you can start doing coordinated ones. But early on, you're kind of all doing your own thing.
Okay.
The ranged thing is as close to that as you get. Later levels, you do have coordinated attacks. What is that, a 7?
7.
So that means that the enemy is going to take 8 damage in endurance. You, on the other hand, are going to take 2. So you will lose 2 points of endurance there, Stone Sparrow, as he manages to... And I mean, he takes damage for sure, but this guy seems pretty tough. Like, even you think he gets the bloody, concept pretty reasonably. Okay, Dawn Thunder is up next.
All right, I'm going to jump in with my Warhammer.
Okay, you have a 17. He has that 20, so you've got a -3 you're dealing with.
All right.
But you can roll that 10-sided die here.
8.
All right, let's take a look. So we said -3, right? 8 means that he loses 8 endurance. Good hit. You also lose 4, though.
Okay.
Endurance as he strikes you.
Okay,
and,
I'm keeping track.
Okay, and that brings us down to True Song. What would you like to do, True Song?
So my combat skill is 14, which makes me feel like going up against this enemy directly is a bad idea. So I have a variety of options that include trying to trip the enemy by throwing my shield, like kind of between his ankles or something, or just like circling around to flank and like attack at his hamstring or at the calves while other people are fighting.
So you tell me what you'd prefer to do. Which of those would you like to try?
Let's do the shield thing because I do have tinkering, so I'd like to. I'm gonna pitch that tinkering gives me a bit of a better sense of how to throw this thing to be able to hamper or waylay this enemy.
Gotcha. Okay, I tell you what. I'm going to give you a luck test, but because of your tinkering, I'm going to make the luck test a little bit easier. So instead of needing a 6 or higher, you will need a 5 or higher instead.
Okay, on a D10.
On a D10.
Okay. Nope, that's a 3.
So the bad news is you throw the shield and the worst news is that it ends up in the water. So you see your shield kind of dropping a little bit below, sort of semi-floating. It's not sunk all the way, but it does mean that you're going to lose 2 points off of, I think it's your endurance off of that True Song. Good idea. The execution didn't quite work out as you hoped.
Dandros, get that shield.
Dandros does, and like just puts the shield over him and like gradually sinks down, so it's now defending him from all comers. Okay, the guy doesn't go because he's already had multiple attacks. Night Fox, we're up to you. He's definitely been hurt. He's also done some damage to your compatriots. So if you wish to engage him, it's a -1 would be your column. You're muted, I think.
I wish to engage him.
Okay, so -1. So go ahead and roll your 10-sided die.
10.
That's object. Wow, a 10? Okay. So I love that when you get far enough over, when you hit a roll like that, it just says EK, which just means killed, just automatically killed. You don't do that in this case, though, I have to say, because you do 11 points of damage to him, though, and like just absolutely just brutally slash into him, and he's just sucking chest wound. He looks extraordinarily hurt. You take no damage in that action because so great is your strength. All right, Stone Sparrow, this guy looks right on the edge of death.
I'm going to attack him again with that quarterstaff. I think I can take him out.
Let's do it then. You have an 18 minus his 20, so you have a -2 is your column there.
All right. Roll the die.
Yep. Let's roll that and see what we get. A 3. Okay, well, you are going to take 5 points of damage, Storm Sparrow, but you did 3 points of damage to someone who was already in big trouble. And so as you slash this guy, he just... and he sort of stumbles down and into the water. You see the shield under which Dandros is lying slide to the left to accommodate him as the body falls. And he says, "You have no idea what you've started." And then he falls over, and with a splash, he's there, and the lake ripples go out from his body as he lies there in the lake.
At least he didn't say, "I am your father."
That's true. He did not.
I thought that Don Thunder's menacing words were better than his.
Yes.
Check the body.
Well, we had a course in that, right?
I didn't get that course.
I must have been in the library.
So you said you're checking the body?
Check the body.
Okay. On the body, you mostly just find, so he's got his impressive looking axe and his armor, but you don't actually see he doesn't have any pouches or anything like that on him, but he does have that same symbol that I referred to before. He does have that.
Storm Sparrow symbol. So it's a symbol, where is it?
It is on his left breast, up a little bit higher, almost near the shoulder, just where the other bandit had it. Looks very much like his axe, I should say.
If we ever want to infiltrate this group, that we don't know what we've started, we should have that symbol. And True Song, you said you've memorized it. We could probably copy that symbol onto leather or something, right? For infiltration purposes.
Yeah, the one that True Song saw was pretty crudely carved.
Maybe we could cut the leather off of this one and then we could keep it as a sample.
Could do that.
Evidence in case there's something in the
Not that
archives.
I know anything about forgery. This is just what I imagine would do if they were so inclined.
Can we track these guys back to where they came from?
You think so, Dawn Thunder, and actually, if you go back that way after retrieving True Song's shield and Dandros beneath it from the water, after about maybe 15 minutes or so spent following the trail, you happen upon a forest track which leads directly to the bandits' encampment. It appears to be deserted except for 8 horses, which are corralled in an area ringed by a crude fence constructed from shaved logs. There are several tents nearby, as well as the smoldering remains of 3 campfires. And if you wish, you could search the tents too, but that's what you see just from the campfire side.
Search the tent.
In there, you discover cargoes, multiple pelts, and some salted meat that was looted, presumably from the merchant wagons at the lakeside. And you also discover 3 tired and anxious-looking merchants. Their wrists have been bound with rope, and they are further bound by additional lengths of rope to the central tent post. And when you come in and they recognize your green cloak, the merchants cheer raggedly and tiredly, but loudly. And one of them, the oldest one, says, "Kai be praised! We did not dare to hope that we'd be rescued by such an esteemed party of young Kai lords. I am Travis. Come, untie us. Let us gather our belongings and bury our fallen brother and leave this dreadful place. This whole misadventure will teach us not to leave the road again. We were so wary of attack on the road with all the rumors, we left the path and ended up walking right into an ambush ourselves. What has happened to our land when such things can occur? What can happen to us?"
I used Dandros's knife to cut them out.
Yeah, let's free these.
I mean, cut them open at this
I was
point.
going to
you
say,
know?
cut them open, really.
free these poor people and give them water and food and
Well, there's some
help
smoked
them
ham
bury
here.
the dead.
Mhm.
Yes.
We will tell the
Yeah,
masters
they-
of
they
what
can
happened
ha-
here. They will communicate with the lords and militias, and we will see what we can do.
And as you consider what your next course of action will be in telling the Kai Masters, I think perhaps on top of one hill, looking over the encampment and looking down towards the lake, someone looks at the Kai lords and has a not particularly pleasant grin, and then turns and disappears behind the hill as we bring our session to a close. So, good work, Kai Lords. You saved the caravan. You managed to, and you actually ripped them apart faster than I thought you would in the combat. Those ranged weapons were doing some serious work. And you deployed your skills properly. I think that's one of the reasons that you were able to do that. If you don't, for example, think to track the tracks down by the lake, for example, then you get taken by surprise. And, so that they could have gone differently. But instead, I think you all ended up sort of using your skills properly in an adventure, which admittedly is designed to introduce us to the Lone World universe, but still, I think you had a good distribution of skills, and good work, everybody. I will, I think, leave it to Mike and everyone else to kind of let themselves do their outros and head out, but good work. And I noticed, by the way, that we have passed 16,000 in the Kickstarter, so that all happened while we were doing this, so yay. But thanks, everybody. That was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed this. I hope you folks did too. And yeah, Mike, you may proceed to let everyone say what they need to say.
Sure thing. So I'm going to say thank you to all of the players for lending their time and creativity to Bag of Giving this evening and joining us on Greg's channel, and to Greg for doing the double duty as channel host and GM and introducing us to this new fantasy RPG based on a property which I learned in conversation with Arv earlier this week dates back to the 70s, I think. Like it's
80s, mid 80s.
Has quite a pedigree within the field. So that's very fun to get to learn something about the genre that I hadn't heard about before. As a reminder to everybody watching, we are raising funds for the National Network of Abortion Funds, which supports a bunch of different groups. You can get the itch.io bundle that's also supporting the same group, get all the things in the bundle, and then contact Bag of Giving to also get entries into the Bag of Giving giveaways. So your donation will get you the opportunity for even more cool goodies. So that is very fun, and I would encourage people to do so. We will be supporting them throughout this month. We have one more game that we're hoping to do in July as well. And then I know that there's lots of other groups that are organizing around abortion rights, reproductive rights more broadly, and abortion access in the USA. So there are lots of opportunities to give and support those various efforts, because the results are more important than which email address gets which receipt about whatever thing. But we want to incentivize that by reminding everyone about the kind of the giveaways that we have. And so that is that. I think I will invite the players to remind everyone who is watching who you are and where they can find your work. And then I will toss it back to Greg to take us out for the evening. So I'm just going to type in the Zoom chat. So, Jeffe, if you want to go first.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, everyone. I'm Jeffe Kennedy, current president of Science Fiction Fantasy Writers Association. Clearly, I interrogate everyone far too closely and mistrust everyone's motives. But I had fun, and I was glad that I kicked ass with my bow and arrow.
You sure did.
Well, sorry, who's next?
Kelly?
Thanks, everybody. This was super fun. It was really enjoyable to game again after a long time. Thanks. Great GMing, Greg.
Thank you. Great playing from all of you.
Agree on the great GMing, and also thanks for the production, Michael.
Really.
And I had a lot of fun, and I feel like I got 85%. I didn't resolve my pants arc, but maybe in another game, we'll see how things go. But yeah, this was a ton of fun.
I think a complex character arc can take many stories to resolve.
Possibly across different game mechanics. And
I mean, it could, yeah, for sure.
Because the next game I play, I might have to have a pantsless character to continue that arc. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Deep motivations.
Okay. And I'm Mike Underwood. You can find me on Twitter at MikeRUnderwood. I Twitch at twitch.tv/TurboTango. I don't think that's a thing. I stream there. And you can find more information about Bag of Giving at bagofgiving.com. And now back over to Greg.
Thank you very much, and thank you to my wonderful players. I've always been a big fan of Lone Wolf and played the original game books back in the mid-'80s and all that. And this was Cubicle 7. Sadly, they don't have the license for this now because nobody is doing Lone Wolf at the moment, but I think they've done a good job with this system. And I will point out to the players that when Cubicle 7 got out, I got pretty much when they were doing a fire sale, so I got every adventure book and thing that I could for very cheap from them. So I just want to note that if the players ever want to pursue their arcs in some further detail or even create their own characters completely from scratch, I would be happy to hear from them if any of them have such an interest for a later session, Bag of Giving or not. But I will just throw that out there for them to consider. No obligation, just something to think about. But really enjoyed this very much. So thank you to the players for being good sports and for really playing well with each other. And thank you to Mike for running production. I agree with Derek. That really is helpful. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for contributing to Bag of Giving. Please do that. It really does make a difference. Part of this community community is really part of supporting people and supporting organizations that do good work like the ones that Mike cited tonight. So please do support Bag of Giving as well. Thank you as well to Brandon Crilly for setting this up too, because Brandon, of course, is the co-founder along with Mike of Bag of Giving and sets up a lot of this stuff. And lastly, thank you those of you who have continued to support this thing above my head on your screen, and that is the Gray Shade Kickstarter, which will be ending Friday at midnight. We have a major event, remember, noon to midnight on Friday, in which we are going to have a group of 10 players that will be running through multiple D&D systems. Multiple systems. Every $500, we will switch systems from D&D to Lone Wolf to the Warren to Shadowrun to City of Mist to Blades in the Dark, etc., etc., etc. It's going to be a blast and a lot of fun, and I don't think it's ever been tried on Twitch before. Otherwise, I'll be back at you folks tomorrow with some more cool gameplay, and tomorrow night for my voice team with Purgatory. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike, and everybody for running things, and players. Once again, it was a pleasure, and I'll see you all soon, chat and everyone.
Bye.